All right, that is started. All right, so that's where we left off. What do you guys wish to do?
Well, I guess we need to head back, don't we?
Yeah, weren't we gonna head back and report and everything? Find out a good way to get across there with that giant maggot too. So,
Weren't
forget
we
about
gonna
that.
kill it and then ask the twins to remake a bridge?
Hopefully take a rest, because I am tapped.
Yeah, you guys are
Yeah.
all three of you are pretty badly tapped out. What are you guys doing?
Head back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we have pretty much everything cleared, don't we? To have this
Yeah.
area so they can use it.
I had a whole speech about going back and then putting some rooms off limits until either us or the army could check. We had marked them on the map, and then Sarah's plan had been to ask Nabish and Nadir to remake the bridge after we killed.
Where's... Is that... Is it this? Hang on. What is that? Why is that... Anyway, the background music has, I think, talking or something in it, which is odd. Anyway, yeah, so... if you guys are heading back, then yeah, Fox, you had mentioned previously, of course, about going back and just, telling them specifically not to cover the, or, nobody to go into the areas you guys hadn't cleared out yet. Quill did mention, though, that, that now that you guys took care of at least what seems to be the, kind of primary threats down here, that most of it will likely be, something that the Crowblinders can help with removing some potential threats down here as well, so... but if you guys are heading back, then anyways, nothing else you're doing in the subterranean in the meantime, right?
No, we're way too tapped out.
Yeah, you guys are pretty badly off already. So, all right, you guys make your way out of the subterranean. There, nothing impedes your way out, of course. The cannibal scout on the far side, the Albashar, is kind of squealing a little bit, like making a creaking sound before you guys leave. But you make your way out. The camp itself is very much a buzz. Things being built, that kind of stuff. It's basically, it's just past dawn. It's around 6 a.m. or so. So that the sun is still not up over the mountains, but it's still, it's lightening out anyways. The ground, though, completely soaked in mud. Every step you guys take is an effort just to kind of pull your foot out of the mud as you guys sink into it a little bit. So it's pretty exhausting. You guys are already, of course, dead tired since you had. Remember, you guys, this, as far as timing is concerned, is still the same day since the battle. You guys rested in the wagon on the way to that big battle at Sodden Field, and then you pretty much hadn't stopped to breathe too much since then. I think you guys took a couple of short rests, but that was it. So that's all been the same day, basically. But the camp itself is a buzz. Soldiers, Crowblinders, and Meowtow alike are kind of rushing through the mud in all directions, that are building walls and repairing existing structures, like adding on to stone structures that are already there. You see them carrying heavy crates, pulling wagons, that kind of thing. What are you guys doing?
What is his name?
Okay, is this, would we pepperjack our contact here? Sorry, my mind is not working. Is that our contact? Okay.
Yeah, Quill tells you that we should probably just report to Pepperjack unless you guys have anything else you want to do first.
I don't think so. Let's get that out of the way, and then we can go find somewhere to rest. So.
Yeah.
I
Quill.
concur.
Okay. Quill nods then and kind of just leads the way towards the tent. Each step, like I said, is kind of a struggle as you make your way there. But just as you're reaching the tent, though, the flap opens, and it's still, now that there's more solid structures being built around, it's kind of surprising. It's funny. This was the only thing that was standing basically when you were here, 3 hours before, basically, before you went underground. But now that there's already structures kind of springing up all around, it's funny to see him in a tent like this. But the flap opens, A young human nurse steps out, and you can see that she's this kind of formerly white smock is just covered in dried blood down to the ankles, and then there's mud from the ground is kind of soaked up at the bottom of it. She gives you guys kind of a weak smile, obviously very tired, before rushing off towards that temporary infirmary that you guys visited earlier in the morning. You guys step inside?
Yeah.
So, inside, obviously it's pretty dark in there. There's a lantern hanging from one of the poles above, but it's just Pepperjack in there and Lieutenant Sampson. And then Quill, of course, who steps in behind you. Hang on, let me turn this one down. You're breathing a bit on the mic, G. So Quill steps in, though, mid-sentence. Lieutenant Sampson and Pepperjack were already talking. And Sampson continued. He says, Rook insisted on it after we finished the mess hall. He says the infirmary, and then Pepperjack holds his hands up just to interrupt him. And he says, he looks up to you guys. He says, "Oh, you made it back, old man. What'd you find?" And Pepperjack looks exhausted, just very worn thin. Dark circles under his eyes. You notice a clean bandage that is wrapped around his left leg, just above the knee. And it's already soaked with blood. You guess, of course, that the nurse that just left had probably just wrapped that, but it's already soaking through. And just then, though, as Quill is about to respond, he tilts his head and kind of holds up one finger, and then he steps outside again. And Pepperjack kind of looks at him puzzled for a second. He says, "It must be a message from the Empire." He says, "So you guys then, the natural ones, just if you would fill me in on what you found."
Well, we cleared out most of it. A few rooms left that we didn't get to.
Most of what? I mean, what was down there?
Ruins, catacombs.
Is it structurally sound enough that we can put people down there?
Should be fine. Found a what was it? A lechin?
Leshen.
Lechin.
He kind of furrows his brow a little bit, like he doesn't really know what that is. He says, "I mean, was it a threat? Is it gone?"
It's gone for now.
For now.
There's a bunch of mimics down there. And then we found a path leading to the surface, but the bridge is worn out, and there is a giant maggot down in the cavern underneath where the bridge is.
He kind of squints a little bit. That he says, "A path to the surface." I mean, meaning back here. Like, would it just come back in here to another spot, or what?
No, outside.
He
Lead to a cave outside.
He kind of looks quizzical for a second, like he's contemplating something. He says, this way out, then this path, it could be a means of ferrying supplies in and our wounded out. He says, "Great work, soldiers. Temporary recruits." He says, "Lieutenant Sampson, gather your 2 most rested squads and delve into the subterranean. Just mop up any remaining, what'd you call them, mimics?"
Yeah, there was one more thing. Before we left, there was an Albashar scout on the other side of the cavern.
Did you mention the giant maggot?
Yes, I did.
Okay, sorry, I can't hear you, so I just wasn't sure.
That's still weird. Wait, if you're not in the same room, you should be able to unmute each other, right?
We are in the same room.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you're not playing on the desktop. You're playing on a laptop. Okay. All right. Anyway, he kind of looks. He listens to you though, and he looks back over to Sampson. He says, "Well, then I guess mop up the remaining mimics and see if we, what we need to do about this maggot, and we'll begin. Then send a crew to begin reconstruction of the bridge. I want to begin sending our wounded and the non-combat refugees underground by noon." And Sampson just nods. He says, "I'm on it, sir." And he starts to make his way out. He looks back to you. He says, "But just one Albashar? You didn't see any others?"
Just the one.
Oh, I'd give him a copy of the map.
Oh, you hand it to Sampson on his way out?
Mm-hmm. With
Okay.
all the notes.
He nods very respectfully towards you and thanks you for it. And he kind of heads out of the tent just as Quill is stepping back in. And Quill, as you guys, he sees basically he's not interrupting. He's trying to be polite about it. He says, "Commander, a word. I've just received a message. Emperor Caius, he would have my head if he knew I passed this along, but I feel I must." And he walks over to Pepperjack and hands him a folded slip of paper. Pepperjack opens it, and you notice his brow kind of tighten up again. And then he looks back up at Quill, and he says, "Do you believe this?" And Quill nods. Pepperjack sighs back at him. He says, "Then I'll make the arrangements." And he looks back at the three of you, and he says, "Your findings could give us a means of surviving this, so take a rest. You've earned it. Come back later in the day, and I'll have another assignment for you." Oh, and Quill actually speaks up then. He says, "Oh, also, did you guys mention the cloak?"
Oh,
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah,
No, I was gonna try and talk to it after I sleep. I don't actually say that, I'm just thinking it.
Okay.
Yeah. But did Quill say that out loud?
Yeah, he says that out loud.
Yeah, then I'll turn around and be like, yeah, this thing talks. So.
You still had it
turn
thrown
my
over your
back.
shoulder, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think I'm still wearing it. So.
Did you actually put it on? I thought you threw over your shoulder at least. I guess I was thinking like thrown over one shoulder, not actually wearing it, but it doesn't. It's fine. It doesn't make any difference.
I'll just say I put it on the way or whatever on the way back. So.
It is still. It's pretty cold out, especially at night. It's not raining anymore, but there's still kind of a thin fog over this whole valley between the. Do you guys recognize geographically in the kind of area that you guys are in? I know this doesn't. It's hard to describe over just verbiage, but basically you've got mountains to the east, and then it's a steep, relatively steep slope that comes from those mountains down to the ocean. So you're in kind of swampland essentially. Does that make sense?
yeah.
So we're on the lower lying parts at the bottoms of the slopes, kind of.
Well, there's kind of
makes it wet.
There's like a thin band of grass essentially that goes between the base of the foothills and then down to where it kind of slopes relatively steeply down towards the coast, where the beach would be, where the Caliodoran Sea is. And that area there's enough water running down from the snow that anytime that it's from up in the mountains that this whole area is just constantly wet basically. So you've gotten far enough north through the Badlands that you got to the wet area, and this area is just very often muddy basically. So it gets cold. Because the peaks are pretty tall, the sun is coming up from the east, and the sun's not over the mountain peaks just yet, so especially at nighttime it gets pretty cold, because you have constant wind and everything. Anyways, though, since, yes, when you say that, Quill, he kind of looks back to Pepperjack, he says, "This may sound a bit strange, but we found a woman trapped in a cloak." And Pepperjack just kind of squints one eye, he says, "Trapped in a cloak?" He's looking at you, Norok.
So yeah, I don't totally understand it either. She seems a bit distraught and keeps asking us to get her out of there, but we don't understand where there is. We just know that the voice is coming from below. So
Quill nods at you, looks back over at Pepperjack. He says, "Yeah, she seems confused. I know High Mage Scatter fell in the battle last night. Do we have any competent mages who can take a look?" And he mentions High Mage Scatter is the name that he gave. I made that window too big. Let me fix that. There we go. That's the name that he gave, though. You hadn't heard that name before, but it was one of the people that apparently died in the Battle of Sodden Field. 12 hours before this, when you guys arrived with the Miotau. But Pepperjack replies. He says, "None, I'm afraid, but just return after resting. We'll see if we can get Scattered's sigil recovered." And he kind of dismisses you guys. It's just him alone now. And he looks, but you notice that as you're turning, he looks back down at that paper that Quill gave him. Just stepping back outside.
Yeah.
As soon as you open up the tent flap, you see Lieutenant Sampson is in the distance, but he's basically gathering some. It looks like he's talking to a squad leader, probably a sergeant. Where is this stuck? There we go. Quill looks. He looks over there to one side, though. He sees that there's a temporary mess hall that's built already. He says, "I don't know about you guys, but I don't know if I want to go straight to the barracks with that with the vision of that Albashar cannibal in my head. I'm gonna grab a drink if you guys want to join me. It's fine if you want to go sleep. Just
yeah, I'll go with. Thinking of cannibalism has made me hungry. So
he looks at Arteme.
Why not?
Are you okay, Fox? I don't think I've ever heard you this either inebriated or tired, one of the two.
Just kind of tired.
Gotcha. All right. Well, this session probably won't go too long, so you probably won't have to survive for too long. You guys make your way over to the kind of temporary ramshackle tavern room, though. It's surprisingly comfortable and warm inside. There aren't any doors, but they have built walls, basically. So you have kind of 4 stone walls all the way around, and they put a temporary roof on with a hole in the middle, and there's a fire pit in the center of this that the smoke is just going up through the hole in the middle. But again, no door, so there is still a small breeze coming in, but the walls are kind of keeping most of the wind out, thankfully. And that big fire pit is kind of doing its job, keeping the place warm. But there's no tables or chairs. It's clearly very hastily built. But there are large wooden crates that are arranged everywhere to allow for soldiers to sit up kind of out of the mud and enjoy some drink and some food. Quill kind of looks around for a second. Hang on. Is that too loud? You guys hear that okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Make perception checks, all 3 of you. Oh, Becky, that mage armor you casted at the Battle of Sodden Field, right? You can't, like, that was 3 sessions ago now, right? But it was
Yeah.
all okay, because that was at like 11 p.m. midnight-ish, so it would have fallen by now.
Yeah.
Or just before. Actually, yeah, it was, I think, like 10 p.m., 10 p.m. So, in case you guys
Okay,
decide to
why
get in
did
a bar
that
brawl.
double cast?
Your perception 1 was. Did you roll it once in the tower and once without it in the tower?
I tried just rolling in the tower. I don't know why it rolled twice.
I don't know. It's the same. Like the result's the exact same. So I mean, it could just be coincidence, but both times you rolled the same number. So no problem
Okay,
either way.
weird.
Just as a test, grab a different skill and throw it in the tower real quick. See if it does it again. Nope, just do it just that time. You rolled a 19 that
Okay.
time. All right. With that, though, you guys kind of you look around. All 3 of you notice Rook. Do you guys remember who Rook is? It's been a few weeks, of course. So here, I'll share too. I kept these so that it'll be easy to remind you guys.
The
But
quartermaster?
yeah, she's the quartermistress, the bard-looking woman with the kind of flamboyant attire. That's her I just shared the VA for. But she is basically, running. It seems like she's running the place. She's behind at kind of a bunch of crates that are stacked up with a board laying across them, and she's she's pulling crates out of a box and setting them up there. But Norok specifically, here, I'll just whisper that to Norok 1 second. There you go. There you go. But she's pulling bottles out of that box and setting them up on this kind of makeshift countertop before Quill seems to spot a group of crates, and he kind of heads that way to take a seat. So, you guys going over with him? What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Okay. You guys...
Yeah, I'll go with him.
All right. You head over then and sit down on these crates. Artemis, you going to?
Yeah.
Okay. As soon as you sit down, like you're only there for a matter of a few seconds, Quill was about to open his mouth to say something, it seems like, but a short boy in a dirty apron stumbles up very awkwardly. This whole place is still muddy, like there's no floor here, it's just muddy ground basically, and he's like struggling with that muddy ground, it seems like. He says, sirs, madams, would you like a drink?
Yes, please.
I don't know what we have. Usually, it's early. Do you like water? Do you like ale?
Anything strong.
He kind of nods.
Water.
He seems very unsure. Okay, water for Artemis.
Or juice.
An ale for me, please. A ginger ale. No, I'm kidding. An actual ale.
He nods. He seems very unsure. Like he's still. It's clear that he's still a little bit shell shocked, probably about the events. He of course was at the battle as well, of course, because that's where everybody was. He's obviously a refugee. He's not with the Crowblinders. He says, and food. I mean, food. We only just have bread right now. Is that okay?
That's fine.
That works. Thank you.
Okay.
I just nod.
He turns, and as he turns, you see that he was wearing this really dirty apron, but as he turns away, you can see that his legs had been covered by the apron, of course, on the front, and you hadn't seen them, but you see that one of his legs is amputated. He's really awkwardly trying to use a crutch that he keeps getting stuck in the mud, and that's why he was walking so awkwardly. And Quill, like you all three noticed this, that Quill, Ben, for DM kind of explanation of how things work, this would be below your passive perception. So all three of you would automatically notice this. Does that make sense? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no need to even roll because it's a 10 or whatever, and all of ours is 11 or 12 or whatever.
Exactly, yeah.
So there's no way to not get it. So
yeah, so the DC would be below what the number would be for an automatic success, meaning no need to roll. That's just how passive rolls work for anything in general, whether they're perception or not. But that's basically how it would work. So, anyways, Quill is clearly impacted by this pretty heavily by seeing this kid, with a leg that was amputated. But as the boy's kind of walking away, he sighs pretty heavily, and he says, "Are you friends? Are you of any particular faith? You guys hold any particular gods?"
No.
No, not particularly. Just hope that the crops are good each year and hunting's good. About it.
I just shrug.
He kind of nods at that. He's quiet for a minute again. He says, "Yeah, these days that's pretty understandable." He says, "My family, we've always been Juthrans, but that's been hard for me to stick to myself. Do you have family back home?"
Some.
The only family I have left is in the group, the refugee group, and not doing so well. So yeah, not really.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I heard about the other Yogg that's with us.
Yeah, the old man.
Yeah,
It's
he
my
may
fault
still
for,
pull through.
not being there. Well, hopefully, gonna do everything we can.
Arteme, are you intentionally being not standoffish? What's the word I'm looking for? Are you intentionally not answering, or is it just because Fox is tired?
I'm just tired, but I would just not.
Okay.
I would technically be tired, so I'm
that's-
acting the way I would when I'm tired.
That's
so
totally
it's
fair.
like-
Yeah, I was just curious if this was Fox being tired or Arteme, choosing not to respond for whatever reason.
Kind of both being tired.
that's totally fair. That's a fair answer. There's nothing wrong with that. I was just curious.
So I would just nod at the family question, but not really elaborate.
Okay. He kind of nods at that as well. He says, "These are tough times for having folk back home, so it's probably for the best, anyways. As much as it's sad, of course, to have yours." And he looks back to Norok, wounded in here, but with all luck, maybe he'll pull through. He says, I've got some back home. I mean, this always makes me think of my father with times like this, and he was a soldier. He never really liked my nose in books. He would have rather I spent my time learning to swing a sword, but he always told me, Merides, war is hell. That's my name, by the way, Merides. Maybe he tells you. It is... That's his name. He says, the Crowblinders give everybody a nickname, and so when I'm here, I'm Quill. But my father, though, he was right about a good many things, but this one, not so much, I don't think. I mean, war is war and hell is hell, and the two, war is far worse. You want to know why?
Why?
Before their rest in Crow's Thicket, who goes to hell, friends?
Probably most of us.
But for real, though, who goes to hell? Who spends their time in Avernus?
The ones who kill others, right? Is that it? The ones who take other people's lives?
Yeah, not
No.
just, but yeah, I mean, let's say bad people, right?
Yeah, okay.
Sinners, etc. I mean, according to the Juthrans, sinners, right? Not all
Okay.
faiths, follow that, but I mean, not exactly that, though. I mean, there are not many innocent people in hell, right? But war, on the other hand, war is chock full of them. There's old ladies and little kids, and he kind of, looks over his shoulder towards the kid that just walked away. Cripples. He says, in fact, except for some of the brass, most everybody in hell is an innocent bystander. And the real problem in all of this is that Vabi is right. And he kind of just is sitting there quietly for a minute.
Relatively, though, depending on if you believe in hell or any other place, or what you believe for the afterlife.
So, you decide? You believe what Babby's doing here?
So real quick before Quill answers, just in narrative, hell is a physical place in the world as well. Not obviously. None of the three of us, Fox. I know you guys don't, or I know you don't know Ben and Becky and I as well, of course, yet. But we're not people of faith by any means. I certainly don't. You know, the hell doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned, of course. But and I know Ben doesn't think so. So I think Becky as well, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, no qualms on that specifically. I don't care what others' faith is necessarily about it, but or lack thereof. But hell in this setting is a real place called Avernus, actually.
Okay.
There.
Okay.
It is a physical place. It's on a different plane of existence.
Okay.
The same way that crow's basically the process is essentially if you're a bad person, you go to Avernus until you've essentially paid your debt, and then you're sent to Crow's Thicket. And then depending on what you do in Crow's Thicket, you could potentially be reincarnated or resurrected, etc. But if you're, basically if you owe a debt to demons or devils of any kind, then you might go to Avernus first. Or Avernus is just one level. There's 9 levels of hell and so on. But anyways, don't worry about any of that. He is referring to faith, certainly, but he's referring to faith not about in a... he believes people go to hell way, but in that it is a distinct truth that people do. Now, there are people, the normal peasantry may not necessarily believe because they're not going to end up in hell, generally. But anyways, so in answer to Artemis' question, though, Quill responds, he says, so you guys, all right, last year, while the Hands of Extinction were still running rampant, Emperor Caius thought it was sensible to annex Arcus, right? You guys heard about this? The Battle of the Blossoms, I'm sure you heard about it. You're not, where you guys are from are not all that far from Arcus. All 3 of you would have heard about it anyways. You'd be far from it, but you would have heard about the Battle of the Blossoms. In fact, I'll put that in here. He tells about the... That happened last year, and that was during balance, by the way. That was partial. Oh, so all the stuff that happened with the Idrilim, that was part of it, guys. So Ben and Becky know about that, of course. But he mentions which, by the way, for Fox, actually for all 3 of you, really. I was writing the Vast Erudition earlier today, and I'm at the end of the Stolen Century, so not too much more to go to get that recap kind of done, so that Fox will have an idea of what I'm talking about when these things come up. Anyways, though, he says, the Battle of the Blossoms, I'm sure you guys have heard of it, but I still have nightmares of what we did there. And, after this, of course, Arcus is part of the Empire. And Vabi is a very large kingdom with many mouths to feed, and since it's predominantly a desert, agriculture is sparse. The Vabian Septarchs have had a bountiful trade agreement with Arcus for centuries. Arcus's food exchanged for rare gems and glass and fine craftsmanship out of the Vabian Domain. Well, when the Emperor decided to invade Arcus, that trade fell apart. The Vabian food stores are running dry. They probably only have a month, maybe just weeks left of food before starvation becomes the norm for the peasantry. And he says, and he kind of quiet, and he kind of tilts his head down, making sure that the kid or nobody else are nearby. He says, what I'm about to tell you could get me hanged, but I'm an old man and I'm getting too wise to fear death so much anymore. He says, Emperor Simon Caius may not have ordered an attack on the Vabian Domain directly, but by annexing Arcus and refusing trade, he knew that he was damning thousands, probably hundreds of thousands, to death by starvation, not to mention those that die in the inevitable war. He says, civilians, Mistian or Vabian, they don't deserve what's happening, what's to come. So yeah, Vabi is right in what they're choosing to do. And he's just quiet.
Yeah, well, I guess no matter which way you go, there's always collateral damage. Doesn't seem to be avoidable.
Hence, war is war and hell is hell, right?
True. But I'm just gonna start drinking my ale.
Well, it hasn't come yet, but actually just about that. And
okay.
The boy does come back with ale, water, and juice. and 3 chunks of very dry and very stale bread. It's basically, you guys know what hardtack is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically hardtack that he's brought. It's like basically that. It's stale, dry bread that is intended to be, like it doesn't get moldy. It just basically, you can eat it forever. You just have to chew on it for a long time. Or sometimes get it wet first so that it's, something you don't have to chew on like leather for an hour. But as you guys are eating, and are you saying anything else? Any other topics of a discussion?
No, because Norok's just probably gonna start thinking about Obo and get quiet anyway, and about that vision that he had. So, trying to space it off, not really paying much attention to that.
Okay.
And then also kind of thinking about what it was that I'd noticed too in the bar that you mentioned.
Okay.
That I noticed in my perception. So I didn't say anything yet. I didn't say anything to anybody or make any kind of gestures or anything yet. I'm just kind of watching quietly and not letting my eyes be seen, really. Just curious.
Make another insight check. Just Norok.
Okay.
Make it perception actually this time.
Yeah.
You know what it should be? It could be either one. You pick whichever one is better for you.
They're both the same, so it doesn't really matter.
Oh, I guess it would be because I think they're both wisdom. Okay. Okay. And as you guys are kind of sitting there chewing on your hardtack bread and having your drinks, you notice that the murmur of the crowd, like this entire kind of gathering of soldiers, is quieting, and it's kind of goes in waves almost over the crowd, but it gets quieter and quieter, and then the refugees, still in low levels of shell shock, are similarly starting to fall quiet as a result. Looking around, though, you see the Crowblinder soldiers' eyes. All of them, all the soldiers that are in here, specifically the Crowblinders, not the Miotau, are all trained on Rook. And you see that she's walking towards this empty crate, and she's got her lute in her hand. And she sits down, and as soon as she sits down, she starts plucking the strings, and a silence just falls over the crowd. The soldiers are watching just rapturously, and Quill lets out this deep sigh and kind of turns around and then looks towards her. I think that's too loud. Hang on. But she starts singing a song, and Quill looks very bothered by this, and he kind of murmurs. But go ahead, and all three of you make perception checks. I guess seating-wise, where are you guys choosing this? Where? I should have asked that probably earlier on. Where he sat down first, who did you, like, the crates are arranged around in whatever order you could be. Who sat next to him and who sat, like, across from him, let's say? Are you muted, G?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. From what we were talking about, I actually purposely sat facing him, so I'm looking at him.
Okay.
Across from him.
Sarah, you're probably, maybe watching her singing or something, but both Norok and Artemis, you pick this up without even looking at him. You just hear it mumbling under his breath with your sharper ears. But Norok, you see him kind of murmuring this, and he says, "You poor misguided girl." And then he looks back up kind of at Norok as he sees Norok, you kind of staring at him, and he kind of looks down towards the floor again. He says, "Her father, Bishop, he left the Crowblinders about 3 years ago, and Pepperjack asked me to look out for her, and she's kind of taken that attention the wrong way." And he just, like, refuses to look back up there. You guys probably would maybe recognize something in there, but she finishes her song, that the crowd kind of all at once, there's this kind of wave of them kind of clapping, and that's too quiet. Anyways, they kind of a thin applause kind of goes through the crowd as she finishes and puts the lute down. And the crowd kind of goes back to its normal murmuring. There was a line that she sang in that song, though, that stood out. Go ahead and make memory checks, the three of you.
There we go. That one worked.
With Norak and Arteme probably not paying as much attention to the song like Sarah was probably paying closer attention to what she was saying. One of the lines that she sang in there was something that Quill said earlier in the morning when you guys first met Pepperjack in the tent about him being the one that has to recount what was lost to the Emperor. And it seems she had written a song about that. Specifically, that song seemed to be kind of about, as much as he was clearly annoyed by it. And actually, now that Norak has noticed this already, but now Sarah and Arteme, you guys may be kind of gathering this, that he does not seem to be happy about what she just did, or happy about her in general. He keeps trying to not look up there. But now that especially Sarah noticing that she sang that song, it's more apparent, I guess, to the three of you probably. And he, with his bread still in hand, but only maybe a quarter of it's eaten so far, he says, "I'm going to try and rest. I'll catch up with you all later." And he kind of steps up into the mud and makes his way towards the kind of opening where the door is. What are you guys doing?
I'm going to just hang out for a minute and just see if anybody approaches Rook or anything. Just sit there and finish my drink, and then see if anybody goes up to talk to her, like any of the patrons or anything. I'm not going to, and not make myself too noticed, but just finish my drink and my food and look over in her direction, see if anybody goes to speak to her.
She went back behind the kind of temporary bar area and set her loot down, and is grabbing bottles again, basically. It's pretty, because you noticed something so far, it's pretty apparent that she could have done that the entire time, but she specifically waited for Quill to get here and then sang that song and then went back. So like it's obvious to you, at least having noticed a couple of things so far, that was probably intentional. Oh, by the way, did you recognize the name that I mentioned earlier, by the way? You probably don't remember. It's been a long time, of course, but I'll ask you guys later for Ben and Becky. The thing from Balance, from early on in Balance.
I thought Bishop sounded familiar.
Yeah, Bishop. Bishop for Ketis, anyways. Do you remember, G?
You're muted. There you go.
No, not exactly. Trying to.
It was 2 years ago, so no surprise.
Oh,
but
so, yeah.
He was a member of the Crowblinders, though, and Ketis, knew him a couple years ago, but he had left the Crowblinders. He told you that he had a daughter that was still there, but that's her. That's who that is.
Okay.
But I'll remind you who he is later on. If he's still, you don't know if he's still alive or not. But anyways, but while you're sitting around finishing your bread, though.
Oh, okay. I think, can I mention it? Was he the guy that I got that deed from? He was like the holy roller looking dude with the white beard and shit, right?
Nope. Different guy.
Okay.
That's Cope.
Okay.
Bishop was the bard.
Yeah, I would say the bard with the...
Oh, yeah, with
thing.
Iggy's. Oh, yeah. Okay.
The one that was always chewing on cigars. Anyways, though, so after Quill leaves, though, and she heads back over to the bar, you do see, while you're sitting there, a soldier walks up who looks pretty nondescript. He's probably a private, probably non-commissioned, certainly, but heads up to this kind of makeshift counter, and they're chatting for a minute, and then she hands him a small bottle, and he walks off.
Okay.
Other than that, nobody seems to be, paying her too much mind beyond, the kind of normal process here. But the boy does, the kid does go back and forth, grabbing things from this small kind of tented area where he goes through like a flap, basically, and then comes out with drinks and chunks of bread. But that's about it. Other than that, everybody just seems to be, enjoying the somewhat shelter and the time after the battle, I suppose, to be relaxed and still be alive.
Okay.
All right, well, I'm going to finish my drink and then get an early rest so I can try to identify some stuff when I wake up.
Okay. The identification for you is a ritual anyways, so you don't necessarily have to do it after the rest, but you can, attempt to do some. Was it an hour? It's an hour and 11 minutes, I think, for you.
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's what you said last time.
Yeah, I think the regular cast is 10 minutes, and then with the, let's see here. Yeah, normal casting time is 11 minutes, actually. With the ritual, makes it an hour and 11 minutes for each cast. So you could try 2 of them during the long rest, and then, however many after you wanted to after the rest, basically. But since it's a ritual, it won't cost you spell points or anything, spell slots.
All right.
All right, so you're heading off to the kind of barracksy area, or are you guys going to make camp? I mean, the barracks area is pretty packed full. Like, it's not like they're not individual cots. It's basically there's a roof and people laying in the mud, including giant Miotao.
Well, Sarah would probably try to find someplace drier that's not quite in the mud.
Okay. What are
Don't we have a tent or something somewhere? Like we haven't had to use it so far, but
you guys have been making camp? Do any of you actually have a tent? I mean, I figured it was mostly like bedrolls and stuff like that, but does anybody actually have a tent?
I think we only have bedrolls. I'm not totally sure.
Yeah, I don't have a tent.
yeah, it's mostly bedroll.
Yeah, I don't see tents in your guys' inventory.
Okay. I guess we forgot to pick one up.
Maybe useful because you guys are in a rainy area now too, just to keep that in mind for
Technically, if I went hunting and skin stuff, I could technically have made one out of this animal.
You could have. I mean, you would have need to have had said so that you had, but yeah, you still could anyways. So the area that you guys are in now, there are animals. They'll probably be rapidly disappearing in frequency just because you have essentially a standing army here that's needing to be fed. But the skins would still be potentially useful if you could find some. So that being said, actually this wouldn't be Rook's job specifically, but she would potentially have those skins because as they're grabbing deer and other animals nearby and using them for food, those leathers and skins are still there. They're not just throwing them out. So.
Okay, well, I'd ask her for some or take some from my inventory and do that.
I mean, you don't have any in your inventory now.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you could try to grab some, or you can check with her. But it's also you're pretty exhausted at the end of the day. If you're going to try to build a tent now, it's going to be pretty
Well,
hard.
no, I wouldn't build it now. I just gather the materials to build it later.
Gotcha. Okay. Are you going to go up to her at the bar then, at the temporary bar? Okay. She looks up. She says, "Oh, yeah, we met earlier. I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name."
Ardeme, hi.
Hi. What can I do for you?
Would you have any pelts around?
I mean, probably, but if you don't mind me asking, what do you need them for?
I was gonna make a few tents.
Okay. I mean, that's kind of what we're using them for too, but I suppose, I mean, I'll see if I can source you some. How many do you need?
Well, depending on the size.
I guess how many tents do you need to make?
3?
Okay. I'll get as many as I can for you then to, at least enough to try to cover that. And just stop back and see me later, I guess. I'll see what I can do, okay?
Okay, thank you.
She just nods and kind of turns back to the bottles that she's pulling out.
You could always make one kid size.
Well, you need one giant one kid size, and one medium size. So
Yeah.
if you're each going to have individual tents, they pretty much have to be in respective size.
Little pop tent for Sarah with Snoopy on it.
You could probably just do like just an oversized sleeping bag, and that'd be enough for Sarah. Just put a little tent pole inside of it. All right. So what are you guys doing? You head back out. Is everybody heading out then? I know Arteme was checking with. Sarah was kind of looking at the barracks at least, and Arteme was checking for potential tent building supplies. What's Norok doing?
Yeah, I guess just going with the ladies, figuring out where we're gonna camp. So.
Okay. What are you guys doing? What's the plan?
I'm just trying to find someplace not too crowded and at least somewhat dry.
Yeah.
Or at least not as muddy.
Okay. Make an investigation check, because you're kind of looking for something specific.
Nope.
Okay, that was horrible.
Yeah, Fox's rolls have been pretty bad so far, too. Yeah, looking around, the best you see that isn't covered in mud is you would need to climb one of these stone walls and try to lay up on top of that.
All right. Well, is there at least any place that's not super crowded? If I have to lay in the mud.
Well, I mean, basically, if you want a roof over your head, they're all crowded. Every single kind of temporary structure that's been built that has either tarps or any kind of a rawhide or wooden roof built, even if a temporary one, they're pretty much packed to the brim inside. Because you've got the total, I think it was 13,000 total, including 5,000 of them being, no, sorry, 3,000 of them being giants, being Miotao.
All right. Well, I guess I'm heading into the barracks and gonna find me a corner.
Okay. How about Arteme and Norak?
Well,
That seems to be about the only option.
I was going to say, if we can't find a place with the roof over it, then I have some rope and stuff. Probably find a couple of sticks and take my cloak and spread it out and make like a little mini tent to at least cover up Sarah and possibly Artemis. You can try to get covered up and I'll just sleep out in the rain. I'm fine.
It's not raining, guys. It's not raining anymore. It's foggy and it's cold, but it's not raining anymore.
Yeah. Then I guess just go find a place. Hop up on that wall then when there's no mud then.
Yeah, I mean there's broken structures basically like
I'll throw you up there.
Yeah, there's structure where basically the walls themselves are pretty tall, but they're they've been there for probably 1,300 years at least. Where they've been broken but haven't fallen again since. I mean, they're sturdy; they're not going to break. So you could, they're not. When I say wall, I don't mean just the wall itself, but like, a big chunk of wall and then like a corner piece that used to be the second floor, like the floor of it. So I mean, there's a couple of big chunks of stone that you could essentially lay on comfortably, where you wouldn't be down in the mud. You would just be laying on cold stone instead, like old mossy stone.
All right. Sarah would probably rather prefer that. So.
Okay. I would say then with Norak's help, you were able to kind of clamber up the sides of these because it's slick, mossy stone. But, with kind of a dwarf tossing kind of a thing, kind of thrown up to the top. Norak, you'll be able to climb up fine, reach down a hand and help, pull Arteme up if Arteme's going to go up as well.
Yeah, might as well. A nice vantage point and...
Yeah, you can see the whole camp. You can see even out to the walls. Like you notice, by the way, that all three of you can see this, but the walls are some distance. You basically are at the kind of broken stone parts of what was probably the village here. They're usually for a keep like this. You'd have your surrounding wall, which is your defensive perimeter, of course, and that's like a big, thick wall. We're talking, probably 20 feet deep or so. That's got building essentially on the inside of it. But anyway. You have that, and that's far away from you. That's a couple hundred yards away, and then you guys are in what would be essentially like the town part. This is obviously a long time gone, of course, but further in, you can see where the actual keep would have been, the actual kind of castle part of a castle, the part where people would live essentially. That isn't the village. That's further in, and it's long since destroyed, of course. But basically, you can kind of looking around, you can see that the place has the potential, of course, for being defensible, and the wall itself, there are soldiers all the way around that are swinging hammers everywhere and loading, carrying stone, loading up blocks, trying to put some, wooden, not boards, but basically logs that have been felled to kind of shore up the holes in the wall. They're obviously trying to kind of make it as defensible as possible the whole way around. So it's still pretty noisy. The whole place is pretty noisy. Norak, this would again be below your passive. Looking over to where a lot of the noise is coming from, you do see the Miotao shaman and Doros, and they're working in a small area. And there's a few other Miotao with them that are clearly trying to set up the Warforge, to build there. But Doros appears to be working on something.
Okay.
Again, that would be below your passive, but you can see that from this kind of vantage point. So. You guys doing anything else? You taking your rest?
I'm gonna try to identify a couple things.
Okay. You're gonna do that before your rest. You're gonna just basically you can get about 2 of them Usually you need 6 hours of sleep, so 2 hours of it you could have essentially as attempting to identify. Are you doing that, or are you doing these before you start your rest? Not that it necessarily matters, but
I'll just do 2.
okay. What are you trying to identify?
Well, we're gonna start with the cloak that talks,
Okay.
and then let's do the ring with the hummingbird on it for the second one.
Okay. Let me bring your identification up here. What was the chance for that? You remember how that thing can break, right? That bauble?
Oh God, yes.
Yeah, so we'll have to roll that to see if it breaks or not. But which one are you doing first? The cloak?
The cloak.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Norak, do you hand it to her?
Yeah.
Okay. You holding it in one hand and with the bauble in one hand and kind of passing the owl feather over it, over the cloak, to try to get as much information from this as you can. Go ahead and it's at the end of the ritual anyways. Okay, so I'll give you the details of it and then we'll see whether the bauble breaks or not. First, in studying this thing, you realize there's 2 different sources of magic that are coming out of this cloak. The cloak itself, and then there's a clasp that's where the cloak is kind of where you would attach it, basically, where you'd attach it around your neck. And that clasp is a different source. It appears to be 2 different items. And the clasp, when you are, well, okay, I guess I would say that you probably noticed that early in the ritual. Do you study the clasp or do you study the cloak?
The clasp.
Okay. One, and just passing over the clasp then, it is the school would be necromantic, and the capabilities of it are within your understanding, but basically it's a trap. It's a trapping gem. And there's clearly something trapped inside of it. And in learning this, you realize that the cloak is separate, and the woman who's talking is not talking from the cloak; she's talking from the gem. You just couldn't really tell the difference, especially in small chambers where it was echoing. She still appears to be sleeping, unless you guys are trying to talk to her. But the clasp itself it does appear to be removable. It's not part of the cloak. It's basically just what was being used to hold the cloak on.
Okay.
So it'd be similar to a soul gem, to where if you kill something or wounded enough, you could trap it into a gem. But in this case, it's
Yep. And for what you can tell, make an Arcana check on Sarah as well.
with those kinds of spells, there's not normally a way to release the person.
For this, she doesn't seem to be okay. So Sarah probably wouldn't have a ton of familiarity with how a soul gem specifically would work, but this is a little bit different. It doesn't feel like she's dead. It feels like she's in there, but she's like think of it like a genie in a lamp. Almost is almost what it feels like. Like there's definitely a being inside there. But that can communicate and everything, but she doesn't seem to. The information you've gathered so far with her talking, she doesn't seem to understand what has happened. She just thinks she's in. I can't tell you that. You'll have to try to talk to her, I guess, to get more details out of it. But there's definitely it seems like a living being trapped inside of this clasp, and specifically an emerald inside the clasp.
Okay, so it's different than an actual soul gem, to where you kill it and you claim the soul for more power. This is a different kind of.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
But similarly trapped. A similar mechanic, just not necessarily kill it and steal its soul. This is not necessarily a soul. It's the actual essence of an individual that's trapped inside this gem.
So now the question would be whether their whole body is trapped, or whether it's just their essence or spirit.
Mm-hmm. But she hasn't woken up, so she's basically, this is all quiet, but this is the information that Sarah's gathered from having kind of passed over this. I was also, by the way, I guess if Arteme is speaking that out loud, then this is information that Sarah would have had to be, sharing, of course, if this is what your identify has given you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay, that would be my reply if she did share the information.
Sure.
But I wouldn't necessarily want to wake the girl up just for us to fall asleep right after, so... it would be kind of rude.
Yeah,
Come on.
It's like inviting a friend over and then just going to sleep afterwards. Go ahead and roll a d20, Sarah, or Becky.
Oh god. What do I have to beat?
You have to not roll a 1 or a 2. Hey, alright. The bauble stays intact. You are able to identify another item if you choose. You have,
yeah,
so you guys have, just as a reminder, technically, you guys have that braided green lash, which is Artemis, that whip that she picked up, although that doesn't appear to be magical in any way, but still potentially could be studied. You have that broom with the handle broken at the top of it where it's split in half. Now, the cloak, now that you know that it's separate from the clasp, that cloak is still there. That red cloak, a small shield, a buckler, and then a rod and a ring.
This is a broom with the broken handle named Buford.
What was that from?
There's actually a plunger, but remember when we were visiting in Oregon, and we went over to visit with Aunt Debbie, and me and you and Jesse were saying that Jamie was using Buford, the plunger handle, in the bathroom, sitting on it. Remember? And he fucking ran in the room and locked the door. I was fucking crying. So we were fucking beating on the door and say that Buford was his boyfriend. You don't fucking remember that?
No, I don't
That was
remember
good
that.
shit, man.
Jeez.
Fucking Buford.
Those kids were such a mess.
Yeah, they were, man.
Anyways.
Well, I know I already kind of identified the green cloak because I have I have green cloak good for hiding.
Yeah, that was an Arcana check. That wasn't a full identify. So I mean, if you successfully identify it, you'll get the actual stats and everything. So it's up to you.
Let's just do that since I already have the cloak out.
Okay. Then go ahead and make your Arcana check. Make it with advantage because you're like it's peaceful. You have time to actually kind of study it and learn everything from it. Yeah, that's plenty. The DC is pretty low when you're doing something like this anyways. Alright, so for that... Whoops, wrong one. I really need to put a link to the parcels inside of the items page. Alright. That is a Cloak of Elven Kind, is what it is. I'm going to drop it in the party inventory, and then you guys can figure out what you want to do with it. Oh, it's already there. Okay, let me just identify it for you then. There you go. You guys see it?
Yeah.
It doesn't have the rest identified
okay.
for it, does it? Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, you see the Cloak of Elven Kind in there. And you guys can read what it does and everything. And then if somebody's gonna wear it, it does require attunement though. This is what it looks like. Minus the clasp.
Ooh, pretty.
I'm good. I'm already pretty stealthy, so.
Yeah.
I know, but I mean, that could be kind of beneficial for me, but I don't know. Like, you guys sneaking up and being able to save yourselves and shit is probably, I don't know. Because obviously I'm a big bumbling fool, so it would help me. But I mean, might save one of your guys' lives, so I don't know. It's up to you guys. If you guys don't want it, I'll definitely take it. But
I'm good.
what about you, Fox? If you want to wear it, you go right ahead, because you could totally be extra sneaky with it. So.
We could probably share it during certain situations because if I have to go hunting, it'd be easy. I could just use Pass Without Trace, not leave tracks, and hunt a lot.
I'll tell you, you definitely can, but you have to attune it. Yeah, so which takes an hour. Basically, you have to during a short rest. I don't think Fox has actually had any attunement stuff yet. Basically,
no.
okay. So basically, to use it, you can anybody can just wear it. Although it does look probably a little awkward on Nora because it's not Yogg size. So it's going to be more like what's the word I'm looking for? Like a half cloak, like a butt cloak. Like it only goes down to like that. But it would still have its effects. It would just look a little funny, but so it would still work the same way and everything. But to attune it, you have to spend a short rest or an hour. It doesn't have to be a short rest, but you have to spend an hour attuning to it, and then you can basically you can unattune from it with just an action. So it only takes a few seconds to do that. But if you guys trade it off, it would just take an hour basically to trade it. That's all.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
But, if there was a specific, say, for example, if Artemis is going to wear it normally, but Norak is going to need it for one particular thing, you'd still totally be able to do that. It would just be, hand it to Norak, take an hour to attune it, and then you're good to go.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I still had the wrong one on here. Whoops. Here we go. So, Artemis going to carry that one then?
Yeah, go ahead and carry it. And then again, if I need a reason to sneak up on somebody, like in a fight or something that we know we're gonna have, then I could sneak up and get advantage on a big hit on somebody, maybe, something like that.
Okay.
Are you going to wear that, Fox?
Yeah, because it'd be good for the hunting trip after I wake up.
Sure.
Might as well attune to it.
Okay. Yeah, then you could attune to it during the. Well, you know what? Actually, let me turn that off so that you can do it yourself, so you know how. I already put it in your inventory here. Let me remove that. Go to your inventory tab, Fox.
Okay.
You'll see down at the very bottom, you'll see Cloak of Elvenkind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where the little line is to the right of that, type exclamation point and then W, and it'll automatically fill in Warren for you. And then just hit tab. There you go.
Okay.
If you hit enter, this is just an annoyance at Fantasy Grounds. If you hit enter, it automatically creates another line, which is why it said tab, but it doesn't hurt anything. To delete that extra line, if you hit the little plus minus in the bottom right corner. There you go.
Okay.
There you go. And then to the right of that Cloak of Elvenkind, where there's a little bag icon, click that until it shows there you go. And then that shows that it's worn. And then to the right of that little circle, that's an attunement. There you go.
Oh, okay.
So you basically spend an hour kind of figuring out how this thing works. You pull the hood up and down. Did you read the notes on how it works and everything?
Yes.
So you can pull the hood up and down. That will give you the allow you to give the benefits or to use the benefits of it, or whether you choose to
Yeah,
or not.
it requires an action, so it's
Yeah.
not really good to do within a fight, but...
You potentially could. I mean, it's only a 6
yes.
seconds. That's just one action, yeah.
Yeah, but then you wouldn't have another action, or I wouldn't specifically.
Yeah, on that turn. But you could, do it as the fight's starting. You could throw it up before initiative is rolled, that kind of thing. So, okay. What was that? Oh, that was the second one to see if the bubble broke.
Yes.
Okay, it did not. So you've spent 2 hours doing this. Now remember, since it's a ritual, you can just keep going and do all of them if you want, and then rest afterwards. It is now about 8:30 a.m. So are you going to rest and then do more afterwards? What do you want to do?
Can I look at something too? I mean, I know I don't have any kind of advantages or anything, but just for the heck of it.
Yeah, I mean, anybody can do Arcana checks to get kind of a feel for how something works, but to get the proper, the full stat block for it, basically, you have to do a proper identification, unless you roll like a natural 20 or roll it.
Okay.
Or if it's a minor
now-
item, like potions and stuff like that, people can identify just by tasting them, that kind of stuff.
Okay. And then if I do that, can I technically do it after I rest, so I drop my exhaustion, don't have disadvantage on my roll?
Yeah.
Or is that fair? Does it got
No,
to
it's totally fair.
cross some timelines? Okay. So,
Yeah, I want to make sure I at least get my long rest in.
yeah, of course.
In case something big happens. You guys don't want me screwing you guys with like an attack and you guys don't get a rest at all? Where you guys are already exhausted? Alright, so
yeah, like
after...
right now when we're looking at stuff.
Well, so I don't know, did I point this out to you guys? But like the last 2 or 3 days of narrative days in here, you guys have been tapped out like every day. They've been some exhausting long days for you for a few days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you've been actually out of all spell points or spell slots. Like you've pretty much used every possible resource the entire time. Sarah does have a point of inspiration though that she's going to lose as soon as you guys rest.
I
You
don't
use
think
another roll
there's-
if you get a bad roll in an Arcana check or something, right?
No,
No?
because my
Oh, no,
things are... What are my things? What did I pick?
It's under basic actions.
Swift Act and Rejuvenate. What was Rejuvenate? 2 hit dice as a bonus action, so it's fine. I'll just go to sleep.
Okay. Then long rest it is. Everybody's gonna take a sleep, right? Not just are you guys taking watch or anything?
I guess I could take first watch for a bit.
Well, I mean, you are surrounded by soldiers and everything, so it's up to you whether you guys don't have to. It's up to you.
Yeah, I figure something
That's
happens.
true.
We'll find out.
Probably be safe just sleeping, because if we hear stuff, then probably enough defense to where we could wake up and get ready before we actually get hit, hopefully.
Okay. So
Yeah.
everybody's just gonna go straight to sleep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me apply the long rest for you. Let me just hang on. That would
Can
be
you take my exhaustion off them?
yeah. Fox, roll a flat d20 for me.
I think that was the right one.
Ooh.
Yep, that was okay. Cool. I would say the morning, but it's not, or the night, but it's not. It's morning. But the rest goes undisturbed. It is very noisy. And you're basically laying on your bedrolls on top of hard stone, so it's not easy to get comfortable, of course. But well, let's see. So it's gonna be pretty like evening. You guys pretty much sleep all day. It's basically like 5:30 by the time you guys wake up. Getting a proper full rest in and everything, for an 8-hour rest. But you do wake up, everything seems to be fine. Now, as soon as you open your eyes and you look around, you are all three immediately surprised at how rapidly the fortifications and defenses have been built up. The walls, there are far fewer soldiers surrounding the perimeter wall now because it's pretty much built up all the way around. You don't see anything in the distance, as far as outside the walls. You don't see any, immediate threats or anything of that sort. But the sun is kind of already down. It's only, a few inches above the ocean in the west, the Calidoran Sea. So I mean, you basically slept all day. But with the sun, it was kept you warm at least because this place can be relatively cold otherwise. But it is kind of early evening. You guys are awake. The forge is pretty solidly built already. G that you can see. It looks the place is looking pretty defensible and good. And there seems to be the spirits of the refugees seem to be up a little bit as far as what you're able to see from your guys' vantage point up here. So, what are you guys doing? Do more identifications for Sarah?
Yeah, I am.
You know what I was thinking too?
What'd you?
I was going to say I wanted to look at that buckler, but I think I'm going to, if it's all right with the ladies, I'm going to bring it with me and go down to the forge and go talk to Doros, and then while I'm talking to him, see if maybe he can give me a hand with looking at a buckler, because I'm sure he's pretty familiar with it. So maybe
Okay.
he can help me.
Sure. All right. So, well, as long as I don't remember who was even carrying. They were probably in the bag, right? So Arteme had them.
I think so. We put a lot of this stuff in the bag holding, but it's not actually in the inventory of the bag holding because I don't know how to.
It was still in the party inventory.
Okay.
I could have actually put it in the bag. I just forgot. I just left it in party inventory so you guys could identify them still.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So then you hand that buckler off to Norok. Norok, you climb your way down the rock. It's more like just a kind of a short hop for you to jump down into the mud to make your way over towards the Warforge. For Sarah, what are you trying to identify next?
We're gonna go with the ring.
The ring? Okay. Go ahead and give me your Arcana check. Good roll. All right. That one, you. It's a fine gold ring. There's a little hummingbird that's kind of bejeweled on the outside of it. It's kind of ugly actually, as far as the art of it. But what you gather from it is it seems like it's got temporary usage that can be kind of regrown over time. But it seems to, if you were to wear this, it seems like you'd probably be a little quicker, a little more agile if you were trying to say jump out of the way of something. Identified it as a ring of evasion. This is what it looks like. Like I said, kind of ugly. How it works is the ring has 3 charges. It regains 1 d3, so it could regain all 3 of them every day. If you're wearing it and are attuned to it, I think it requires attunement, doesn't it? Yeah. Requires attunement. If you fail a dex save while wearing it, you can use your reaction to spend one of the charges, and you'll succeed instead.
Nice.
Now, there are certain things, of course, like, say, a fireball, for example, where when you succeed, still good on your bauble, where even if you succeed, you still take half damage, but half is better than full damage, so.
Yeah.
So, is Artemis staying up there with Sarah, looking at these things?
For a bit, and then I was gonna go check the hunting. Or did I already go put the hunting traps, or did we go into the... I can't remember if I had went to put hunting traps after the battle, when we first got back to the camp, or if we had went to check the rune.
I don't think you actually did. You talked about, helping with the hunting to help feed the war camp and everything, but I don't think you actually went to go do anything yet.
Okay, I'll go set traps and do a bit of hunting.
Okay. What kind? Are you talking like rabbit traps, or are we talking bear traps?
Both?
Okay. Make 3 survival checks for me. Make the first one with advantage, and then make 2 more. After your rest, you'd be, a little clearer headed on this. Hey G, I think earlier when I told you that you were breathing on the mic, it might have been the background sounds of this, because there's a sound for one of these background things that's playing that is, you guys know what a bellows is?
Yeah.
One of the sounds from this is a bellows, I think. I think that's what it's supposed to be, and it sounds like somebody breathing into the mic, but I think that's what, earlier when I said it was Ben, I think it was just that.
I did move it, so if it happens again, then it's probably not me, because I did.
Well, I mean, it was just doing it a second ago, but I'm sitting there thinking, like,
I was muted a second ago, so yeah, I just unmuted myself right now. So
the cadence of it wasn't right. Like it didn't sound like the cadence was wrong for it to be somebody breathing. So I was like, that doesn't sound quite right. But I was trying to figure out what it was, and I realized I think it's the bellows, because one of the sounds is blacksmiths in the background of like a war camp.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
With the forge.
Fox, though, you setting these up, like you're still, you don't even have to go really outside the wall that much, just barely, basically, to get outside of there. But you're able to set up multiple spots in little copses of trees, essentially, where the soldiers haven't felled the copses yet, to kind of leave a little spot for some, hopefully for animals to drop into. Where they basically left small, copse of trees, is right. So, little sections of trees like that aren't quite, dense forest. But you're pretty confident that you set up decent, successful traps that you think will be, able to bring in some food later. Obviously, you'll need to come back at some point. When you head back towards the kind of main gate to get through the outer wall, though, there are soldiers, kind of up there that are essentially, they're not really scouts, but they're kind of like guards, essentially, but they're just kind of watching the gate there. And one of them gives you kind of an odd look. And he says, I saw you leave, right? I mean, you're welcome back and everything, but if you don't mind me asking, what were you up to out there?
Hunting?
And you're coming back empty-handed? He says, pardon my suspicion. I mean, I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but, that's kind of my job, is to be suspicious.
It takes time for traps to work?
He kind of squints at you. He says, that bow on your back doesn't seem like it would take too much time. You're just going to ignore him and walk on in? He's not stopping you. He's up on the walls. He's not stopping you. He's just, he wasn't trying to be rude necessarily. He was just questioning what you were doing.
Those require the tracking, and I didn't want to go too far from...
He kind of nods and just shrugs. He says, all right, well, pardon my rudeness. Welcome back.
Okay.
You make your way back in. That would be, you were gone. I would say that you were probably gone for 2 hours of it. We'll skip over to Norok for going to the forge, and then we'll do at least one more for Sarah. Identification, assuming that's what you were continuing to do. Becky?
Yeah.
Okay. For Norok, heading down to the forge there with the buckler, you make your approach. Most of the Miotao have kind of, separated now and left. There's one in there that's still working, and then Doros, and then the Miotao shaman, who you guys never got the name of. But they're basically, the 3 of them are still in there. But the place looks to be kind of functional now.
Okay, so I'm gonna go in and say hi to everybody, and then say the place looks nice. You guys have been definitely working on it.
Doros looks up, looks at you, and you do notice, by the way, that he is working on what you expect is probably Vulcanbreaker. It's like it's not the same shape anymore. It's not a sword anymore. It looks like he's working on an axe, basically. But the metal is kind of shimmery, and you assume that must be, what he's kind of made out of the steel or the Vesimer steel that was Vulcanbreaker. But he looks up at you and then looks back down and kind of like turns his shoulder to you, like he's basically ignoring you.
Okay. Then I'm going to head over his way and ask if he's familiar with the buckler and hold it out for him. Say I found this and it seems like it might not just be your standard run-of-the-mill shield. So.
You see his nostrils flare and he kind of rotates even further. But the shaman, who who you met in the pit when you were doing the challenges for the Miotao, he walks up and says, "Oh, Yog, it's good to see you." He's still not quite over the grieving process just yet, so just give him some time if you would. As you can see, though, he's made some significant progress. He thinks it'll probably be ready maybe tomorrow.
Works for me.
He says, "What's this that you brought?"
He says, I found a buckler out there, and then I'm actually going to, for once, be nice and say, you know what? I never caught your name. What is your name, by the way? And stick my hand out. You know mine. All right. Can we officially meet?
He kind of chuckles, and he says, I'm Gratis, is the name he gives you, and he shakes your hand.
Okay. Shake his hand, and I'll tell him, I know it was part of the trials and the games and everything, but I've lost a lot of people recently, too, so I know how you guys feel about losing, what was it, Parthios? Yes, losing Parthios. So
yeah, it was Parthios.
I hope you send my condolences. And, yeah, but I found this buckler. It looks like it's a little special, maybe, so... You recognize it?
I can't say I do. This isn't really the kind of defensive weaponry that we would really design. Based on that, because the front of this has a big sunburst emblazoned on the front of it. It's not very big. It's only probably 18 inches or so circular, so it's not a very big shield. It's basically you put it on your hand. You don't put it on your arm. Do you understand what I'm talking? Do you know what a buckler is?
Yeah, but it seems even small for a buckler, kind of, doesn't it?
A little bit on the small side, but it's not really.
Okay.
It's almost a weapon. Like you would punch with it. Like it's basically got a big notch on the front of it that you would basically punch with this. You could still use it. So a gladiator you might see this in a gladiator movie, like this kind of one where they would use pardon the name actually because it was gratis, but you'd use a gladius, which is a very short sword, a very thick bladed short sword. And then you'd use a buckler in the other hand, which you would punch with, basically. You can still use it to deflect, an attack, but also to punch with it. But there's kind of a sunburst emblazoned on the front of it. But he says this isn't really the kind of weaponry that we would use. But I mean, that's really, that's not a surprise. Our weaponry is often kind of specialized for our size.
All right, well, appreciate that. Maybe when Doros has more of a chance, I'll see if he maybe knows a little bit more, but check it out a little farther, see if I can figure it out.
He just nods. He says, but I mean, if not before, then probably stop back tomorrow because I think you'll be done with your weapon by then.
All right, will do. Did you guys need a hand setting anything up here before I go? Anything else?
He says, and he kind of looks around a bit. He says, I think most of our bulls got this set up already, but I'll let you know if we do, if that changes.
All right, cool. Thank you, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.
Go ahead and take your point of inspiration. It was only like 4 weeks late, but you can go ahead and have your point of inspiration for finally asking a name.
I was just trying to be nice, so I don't really care if I get it or not. I mean, I don't mind, but that was kind
I
of
was
a
just
cheap
kidding
shot.
anyways.
So.
But at least now, if I have to refer to this guy again, I don't have to refer to him as that Mio Tao shaman you guys remember. Sarah, well, Arteme was out hunting, I guess. So the ring, did you earmark that? Is anybody? Are you planning to give that to anybody? I guess you could wait till the group gets back together if you want to keep identifying.
Yeah, I'll just keep going until they all
Yeah.
get back.
Okay. What is then? So that was an hour. Norok, are you heading back to Sarah then? What are you doing?
Yeah, because Artemis is still off hunting, right? So I'll
Yeah.
just go back and see what Sarah. Yeah.
Okay. All right, you climb your way back up onto the wall. Then you see that Sarah's just finished up studying this special ring with a hummingbird on it.
You
What's
may
next?
want this big guy. Let's see the cloak.
Natural 20. What was it? Which one?
The cloak, the other cloak.
The other cloak? Okay. What do you do to study? Do you try putting this one on at all? Just out of curiosity? Has
Yeah.
anybody tried to put this cloak on out of curiosity?
No, nobody has. Not the red one.
Okay. Do you? You know what? Okay. If you hadn't yet, if you were still trying to study it first, I would say that as you're passing the feather over this one, you keep getting. It's distracting because there's this little like gust of wind somehow that keeps kind of blowing the cloak out, and you keep it's like distracting. You have to keep focusing on this over and over again. I mean, with your natural 20, of course, you still got all the information from it, but every time you pass the feather over it, it like billows up again, and it just keeps kind of like there's a gust of wind that's just blowing the cloak up, but it's not like you don't feel any wind, and it just keeps doing it over and over again. It's actually getting pretty irritating until you finish the ritual, and it's a light voluminous cloak of a bright red, but you learn that this cloak seems to have a little bit of a mind of its own, and it puffs itself out anytime that it wants to. And you learn, specifically, it's called a cloak of billowing. You can make it do it anytime you want, but it also decides to do it anytime it wants to on its own. It just seems to have a mind of its own and just decides when it's gonna puff itself out, make itself look grandiose, like it's standing in front of a big fan.
Huh.
As a bonus action, you can make it billow out dramatically, but like I said, it kind of moves around on its own sometimes.
Sarah might actually like that.
You gonna wear that one? It doesn't
does that one
require
require-
attunement. No, it's just a silly cloak.
Yeah, she'd probably wear that.
All right, and then I will drop that one on you. There you go. That one, if you would put it on your worn section, and then change it to equipped, but you don't need to put an attunement.
Since I haven't actually done it yet, can I do a Arcana check on Buckler?
Yeah,
Because I didn't actually do a check when I asked him.
Yeah, you were still exhausted at the time.
Yeah.
Finishing that cloak, like just as you're standing up and putting the cloak on, Sarah, Arteme has come. Well, Arteme, were you going straight back to where they were up on top of the wall, or are you going somewhere else?
No, I was going back.
Okay. Then, as you show up there, Norok is sitting down with this buckler kind of in his lap and looking at it, and Sarah's standing up and putting on this kind of resplendent red and gold cloak that is just blowing out behind her as if there's a big gust of wind when there really isn't one. So far, so good on the bauble. With that, you don't get much information from it. You really you can sense that it's magical, but that's it.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Sarah, do you want me to put that in worn under Sarah?
Oh, I thought I put that in there. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. There you
Alright.
go. The ring. You still have the ring.
Who would like a ring of evasion?
Did everybody hear how that works?
Change to one thing at a time. Then?
Nope, 3 things.
Oh.
You wanna take a look at that?
Yeah, I might take the ring unless somebody else wants it.
Go
I
ahead.
figure you're pretty big, so you're probably not as dexterous.
Oh, can I even fit that ring, by the way? I didn't even think about that with my giant sausage fingers.
It would
So-
maybe only
It
fit on
should.
your pink.
It should.
Yeah, maybe the pinky, but even still. So general rules for usually for D&D is that stuff will automatically resize. I don't really like that. I think that if that was the case, it would kind of need to be something that was specifically enchanted into something to resize. But I wouldn't say that there's any magic item that you can't use. That something would be the wrong size. It would just be having to be adapted. And in this particular case for the ring, I would say you would probably, if it wouldn't fit, just wear it on a chain around your neck, kind of a thing, and it would still give you whatever the effect is.
Okay, cool.
All right
You're
then.
standing under the fan, so it's.
Yeah, is that what that is? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, standing under the fan. Yeah.
I was gonna tease him like I could maybe just like braid it into size 4.
Well, she doesn't really like. For her, doesn't she get? I think she gets it. Familiars get automatic successes on area attacks or something like that. Anyways.
Oh, okay. I was just teasing.
All right, I put that one on. That one is that one's attunement as well. So you don't have anything that requires attunement, G?
No,
I guess
not yet.
Vulcan, yeah, but you didn't.
Did,
attune
but I
that
never
because-
did that.
Well, because it was cursed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, now you have one thing that's attuned. Okay, so there is the broken broom, the rod, and the buckler left.
Let's go.
By now, by the way, it is 7:30 in the evening.
Wasting the day.
All right. Well, I'm gonna keep going until we absolutely have to go and see Pepperjack. So let's start with the rod.
Okay. Good roll there too. What are Norok and Artemi doing? Sarah's sitting there for
I'm
another
good.
hour.
gonna-
I'd ask if she wants some breakfast.
Breakfast. It's.
You get what I mean.
Are you gonna go down to the mess hall and get something from Rook, or are you gonna just use whatever rations you guys have? Or good
Well,
berries or
I
something?
went out when I set the traps out to grab some berries and
Okay, sure. So Artemi brought those back, so you guys have something to eat for breakfast / dinner. Girls just want to have brunch. Or was it lunch, G? I think it was lunch, wasn't it?
Yeah, there goes lunch.
They don't want breakfast, they don't want brunch. Girls just want to have lunch.
Yeah, no, maybe it was brunch. Yeah, okay, I can't remember exactly, but
I need to listen to those
Yeah.
again. Like they're still fucking stupid, but at least they were funny for the time.
dude,
They're-
Weird Al's hilarious. Dude, pull up when I was your age from Weird Al. That's still goddamn hilarious. I swear to God.
I don't
That one's
remember that
fucking
one.
funny.
I don't know.
Oh, that's a good one.
What is it a parody of?
I don't think it's actually a parody of anything. I think it might just be one of the original songs that he did.
Okay.
Some of his songs I think were just original, but yeah, it's just complaining about the younger generation. It's actually really fucking funny now because we're old, so it's actually pretty good. So
All right. So you guys are having a snack while Sarah is. That was the rod that you just rolled for.
Yeah.
Okay. Then this one, you rolled plenty, of course, to get it. But as you're passing the feather over it, this one is pretty complicated, and it takes you a while to kind of get all of the little details of it. Roll a D10 for me, just a flat D10.
Third in from the left.
Third in from the left, yes. Okay, right in the middle. There's a certain amount of latent energy that's currently stored inside this rod, but it's not a lot, but there's some in it. But it feels like it's storing spell energy. And what it is this is a rod of absorption. I just identified it for you. If you requires attunement, so if whoever's attuned to this, you have to be holding it, which means that you can't just say that you're pulling it out of your bag and using it. You literally have to be holding it while this happens. But if a spell is casted at the holder, you can use your reaction to cancel that spell. So a little bit like a counter spell, but the stored spell level is, or the spell level that's casted that you've canceled with it. It can't be above 5th level, and it can store up to 50 total levels of energy that you can then use as spell slots. Until it's back down to 0. If it gets above, you know what? I think I'm going to change the number. 50 seems too high, so we'll probably lower that. Roll a d20 for me, Becky, and we're going to add 10 to it, and that's how many total spell levels it'll have, storable.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. About as good as you could get almost. So 29 levels of energy that it'll be able to store. So essentially, you can, if a spell is being casted at you and you're already holding this, it cannot be an area spell. It has to be targeting only the person that's holding the spell. But you can essentially cancel that spell by absorbing it into the rod, and then later you can use the stored spell. So for every number that's in there, which right now is just 5, that's what that 5 was. For every spell level that's in there, you can use as slots. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But it does require attunement, of course. And it doesn't recharge, there's no charges in it of anything except when it gets hit with spells. And if you drop it to 0, it has a chance of destroying itself. It could break.
Okay. Oh, I need to.
So when you say it stores the spells, you have to use them to release the energy, or
No, it doesn't. It stores the... What was that? Oh, okay, good. No, so it's not. It doesn't store the actual spell itself. It stores the spell's level, essentially. So if it was a 3rd level spell and you use this to block the spell, to absorb it into it, it would add 3 levels to the rod. Right now it has 5. And then you would basically, if you, right now it has 5, you could use it to cast up to a 5th level spell slot, or 5 level 1 spell slots, or whatever.
oh, okay.
It's basically a way of getting more spell slots, potentially, but every time you use it, well, when you get it down low, there's a chance of it breaking. And of course, the only way to recharge it is to, absorb spells.
Do they have to be enemy spells necessarily, or could it be like absorbing friendly spells?
It has to be, and it has to be a spell that is being targeted at you or whoever's holding it. Anyways, it has to be a hostile spell, not an area effect.
So
it doesn't
basically,
specify in the description. It doesn't specify that it has to be hostile, but I think it needs to, because casting cure wounds at somebody, you could potentially just absorb it over and over again. Meaning you could recharge it amongst yourselves, and that's not how it's intended. But I don't know that I would say you couldn't do that.
But I was thinking Sarah could use an attack spell, and then we could recharge it.
Yeah, exactly. Which you could potentially do. It doesn't specify that you can't do that. It's that you thought of it anyways. I would say it's what's called the rule of cool. I would allow it, even if it isn't necessarily intended to be that way, just because that was a cool idea.
Okay.
But you do have a lot more spell slots than Sarah. Sarah can't get... you know what? Actually, never mind. I was thinking Warlock, but you guys actually have about the same anyways, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you actually do. You have the exact same number of spell slots.
Except I tend to always miss, so I'm gonna leave Sarah have it. Because her attacks actually do damage.
That's true. Yeah, the difference would be... Well, it's also who is going to be getting potentially targeted with it, too. Because it doesn't do any good unless you're going to be getting hit with spells.
Yeah, that's true, too.
So, Sarah, if you're going to be taunting mages to get them to cast spells at you, that might work.
It's too bad it's not easy to transfer back and forth. Just put it on me and just send me out there, because they're going to blast the shit out of me. And then I'll skip it to you guys, and you guys can fucking use the extra stuff of it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'll just use my holier-than-thou attitude. We'll be good.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, bitch.
Get over here. Shoot me.
Alright, so that's what that one does. I've identified it for you. So that one does require attunement. So who wants
Okay,
to
wait.
take it?
You're saying it has to be directed at the person, but can the person intercept something directed at somebody else?
Not
like if you
with
move into
spell
the
attacks, yeah. I mean, I would say if there was a possibility that it could accidentally hit you, say, if somebody was trying to target Sarah and you just happen to be 5 feet away, like you're close enough that you could potentially intercept it, I would at least give you the opportunity, the chance, basically, that it could accidentally hit you, because I would let that with the same spell. Like basically, if if the spell was aiming at her and you had a reaction, because this does take your reaction, then I would potentially allow you to try. But if you're across the room, it's not going to work, of course.
Well, no, I didn't mean across the room, but I mean we normally stick close enough together that if somebody's aiming at one of us, the other one could go into the way, intercept it by going in.
Yeah, I'll totally give you the shot. If if it happens that way, whoever's using it, I would allow it to at least try.
Okay.
Doesn't mean it would automatically succeed, but we'll give it a shot.
Oh, that it was just a thought.
Yeah. All right. So who wants it?
If Artemay doesn't want it, I'll take it.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, then we'll put that on there. Whoops.
This way here, well, I'll have gotten an item out of it.
You want to attune to it as well?
Oh, yeah.
You're supposed to have to spend an hour. You know what? If you guys are pretty much spending your whole day doing this anyways, I would say go ahead. Like we'll go ahead and you know, handle the attunements at the same time, rather because I don't want to you know, basically have it all be the entire day of just identify and attune constantly. So instead of adding extra time, it is now 9:30. No, it's still 8:30. That was that one took us to 8:30. There's a broom and a buckler left that you guys haven't identified yet.
I'm gonna go with the broom.
All right.
All right. While she's doing that room, I'm gonna go look around and see if I can find where Pepperjack's tent is and make sure he's still there. So get out for the night so we don't miss him for the day. So I'll come back and get everybody if I have to.
Oh, that was awful.
Oh, that was really close. No, that was your Arcana check. But that's
yeah.
As long as you don't get a, you know, basically below. Well, you can't even get a below 5, huh? I guess the Arcana check is kind of. Yeah. Okay. All right. The broom, you are having trouble getting much out of this thing. You probably, like, Becky probably knows what this thing is, right?
Is it like Vex's broom?
Yeah.
Which,
but it seems like a cornered Wolverine. What's a shrew? A cornered shrew. The broom feels very angry, and as soon as you start passing the that sounds silly until you start passing the owl's feather over it, and it's like moving your hand. It feels like it's shaking, and it feels like it's angry. Like it would try to snap at you if it could. It feels like it's also similarly has a personality like that cloak that you put on does.
Okay.
But you're not able to get details from it too much at the moment. It feels like it's just beyond that. It feels like it's wounded. It feels like a wounded, cornered animal, and the top of it is split open.
All right. Would I have any idea who to go to get that fixed?
It doesn't seem like it would be that hard to fix. I can tell you too that the enchantment doesn't appear to be on the broken part. It appears to be on the broomy part.
So I'd be able to mend it?
I mean, you could certainly try.
Doesn't mend only work on non-magical surfaces? Didn't we already try that?
Yes, but specifically the enchantment is on the tassels. It's on the end of the broom, the sweepy part, not the wooden part.
Aha!
So I would be able to mend the broom part, or the handle part.
If you're going to try.
Yeah. Let me just find the spell.
I'll go ahead, since I already told you that. That's what it looks like.
Oh, okay.
With a broken part.
I guess I just cast mend?
It's just a cantrip. It's fine. There's no effect you need to do. There you go. So you pass your hand over the top of it, and the split point at the end of the broom there starts to kind of sew itself back together. You see little kind of threads of wood kind of stitching between the middle of it until it pulls itself back towards the center, and is one solid piece again. It does calm down, and it doesn't feel so angry anymore, but it definitely doesn't seem inanimate. It seems like it has a mind of its own a little bit. But you do gather some information from it, in that it is a broom of flying. It's not very heavy on its own. It's just basically a regular broom, but and you don't need a command word for it. But it doesn't actually require attunement. That's cool. I didn't realize that part. But it's kind of small. It's not like a really big. It's not like a full-size broom essentially. It can carry up to 200 pounds total. But its flying speed becomes 30 feet if it's carrying over 100 pounds. So basically, it's normally 50 feet. It'll fly on its own at 50 feet if you need it to for some reason. Pardon the dog's noise. Esther.
Or just ask I can ride it.
I mean, yes, I could ride it fine. Yeah. Sarah can ride it fine. But basically, if it's over 100 pounds, even Artemis can ride it fine. Basically, just it's 30 feet is like your guys' normal walking speed. Basically, I think Norak is 40. But basically, you can fly unless it's above. If it's above 200 pounds, it can't move. But up to between 100 and 200 pounds, it just moves at 30 feet. Below 100 pounds, it moves at 50 feet.
Okay.
There you
And
go.
it doesn't require attunement?
Does not require attunement.
Oh, that one we can actually pass back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except Norak. Norak can't really do much with it.
Nah, probably a good 400 pounds, so I don't think I'd be able to ride that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's sweet, though.
Alright, and... Oh, shit.
Remember when I asked you if Sarah was afraid of heights?
Oh, God, yeah.
It came up with a random loot table, so I just figured I'd give it to you guys. It'd be fun. All right, so the
Yeah,
bobble
I
is
can
still
just-
okay.
Coast just above the ground. We'll be good.
That's true. That'd look dramatic.
Because you wouldn't have to go high up anyway.
No, you don't have to at all.
It would like even if you're just like really tired, you could just gently ride it for a bit, take a bit of a rest.
Who's gonna carry it? Or throw it over your back or whatever.
I can. I'm
Probably
used to
what I used
having a
to.
bow and a staff.
What's that?
That's fine.
Okay, give it to Arteme.
Yeah, that's fine.
Here it is. You get that one. You guys can trade back pretty easily anyway. So
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go on a really long walk, I'll just borrow it from her.
there you go. All right, and then last then is that buckler.
Yay.
That 6 was your bauble check, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then the last one here, checking the buckler out. This one doesn't appear to be possessed of any personality of any sort. It's there's a sunburst emblazoned on the front of it. It's a pretty finely made shield. Beyond that, though, it seems like this the sunburst on the front of it seems like this enhances perception checks, basically. So the wielder, whoever is not attuned, this one doesn't require attunement. Whoever is using this will have advantage on initiative rolls and advantage on perception checks. But you have to be able to use it. So you don't necessarily have to be proficient to get the shield effects, or sorry, to get the magic effects. But to use it as a shield, you would have to be proficient with shields, which I think probably only Norak is.
Yeah, nobody else is going to use it. I will.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
But actually, wait a minute, because for now, yeah, but you can unattune and then read. No, it's not. Doesn't take it to attunement, does
No,
it?
it's
Yeah, it
not.
doesn't.
Okay, because before too long, I'm actually going to have a skill naturally that gives me advantage on initiative rolls. So when that happens, one of you two take it. So, how about that?
sure.
Sure.
Well, in the meantime, that'll
sweet.
give you 1 extra AC as well, G. So your AC is now 15 when you're wielding it, at least. It does take your left hand, though. Well, at least it's on your fist, for your left fist. With the remade version of Vulcan, you haven't gotten to see much of it yet, but that one will be versatile. So you can swing it one-handed or two-handed, but you'd still, because it's just a buckler that's on your fist, you'd still be able to use it two-handed and have that buckler. A larger shield, you wouldn't be able to.
Okay, but because it's a small shield, you could still use two-handed weapon.
Yeah, but it's also not as much. Basically, it's just strapped to the back of his hand, so he could still use his fist. Basically, he can still hold like something in his hand for it. But a larger shield, he wouldn't be able to. But it's also not as much AC. Like it would be a regular shield would be 2 AC. This one's only 1. So
That's
it's,
still
Okay.
nice, though.
yeah.
But theoretically, if Sarah or I use it after, I'd still be able to use my staff two-handed with the shield.
Yep.
Okay. It's just because I tend to get hit quite a bit, and I went unconscious more than anyone else so far.
Yeah, that's true.
Have you? I know Sarah's. You guys are probably the 2 of you are probably in the running for it for sure. But
No,
Oh, I haven't even been
went
knocked out yet,
uncon-
so. Yeah.
I went unconscious twice, the first few times, and then I think I went unconscious 3 more times than Sarah.
Yeah, I've only been unconscious twice, I think.
Okay.
During the Miatao trials and when that giant hit me.
when Cogrit knocked you off the wall.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Throughout any of that, because Sarah was kind of just spending a lot of time going back and forth through these, and the sun is almost down by now, over the ocean. Did Arteme ever spend any time kind of looking at that green that whip?
Oh, yeah, I would have a bit.
Make a nature check, and make it with advantage because you're actually like, sitting still basically and able to take some time to look at it.
Okay.
Okay. So you were wondering something specifically, right?
Yeah, I wanted to know if it was a mimic or if
Okay.
it just had properties of the.
Okay. In studying this and looking over it, it won't change its shape. It doesn't seem like there's definitely, it's alive. For sure it's alive. And it feels sticky like the same way that the pseudopods from the mimics did. So you guess it's probably of some kind, a cousin, let's say, to a shapeshifter of a sort. But it seems
Okay.
like this is its shape, and it doesn't feel like it wants to. Like it doesn't seem like to you like it wants to change any shapes or anything of that sort. But it definitely does feel alive. It doesn't seem to be dangerous to you at all. You haven't seen a mouth open up of this and try to bite your hand or anything of that sort. But you do get the impression that like anything that's alive in nature needs to eat. And this thing,
Yeah.
you did notice when you used it a couple of times that the part of it that whipped out looked like a tongue, and it was probably it. Well, so I'll just tell Fox this part of it. The extra damage that it does, that's its eating. That's why it does necrotic damage. As long as you feed it regularly, meaning hit something with it, hit something that's fleshy with it, and it gets to eat, then it won't be a danger to you in any way.
Oh, okay.
But if you don't feed it, let's say in a reasonable amount of time, it might start biting things, or things might start to disappear out of your backpack, that kind of stuff.
Would I be able to actually just feed it like raw food too?
You'd have to try.
Okay.
So throughout all of that, you've gotten that information for that. Did I identify that? Yeah, it's identified for you. Okay. Did anybody try to talk to the clasp, the stone?
No, but I think I'm going to now. I still have it with me, right? Well, did you give it back to me, Sarah, when you were done? Babe?
Yeah, I probably would have handed it over
Okay.
because I'm busy identifying other stuff. So.
Okay.
Now, did you tell me what you had discovered when you?
Yeah, while I'm identifying, I'm
Identified
telling you guys what the stuff
So you
is
tell.
doing.
Okay, so then I'm going to see if she's there and wake her up, and then ask her if she remembers coming across any people that seemed magically inclined recently, and maybe
Well,
they had a problem with her.
Maybe ask her name first and a bit of background, or just jumping into like,
Maybe we
hey,
should let
do you
Artemis
remember
talk.
anything that?
All right, Fox, go ahead and take your inspiration.
That's actually a good idea. Fine, I'm going to hand it over to Fox then, because I'm assuming she said that out loud. So I'm just going to be like, no, you're right, and I'm going to actually hand it over to me. So
Because there's a delicate way of asking somebody if something traumatic happened to them. Because first of all, she was confused, crying out like, "Just get me out of here!" So, not sure they'd actually remember what happened per se. So, asking a bit of background might trigger.
Okay. So it takes you a minute to wake her up. Like well, you know what? Tell me specifically. What are you trying to do to wake her up? Like you just know, you can feel it somehow that you know that she's sleeping in there.
I would first try by it was in a buckle. It was
Yeah, it's a small clasp
a clasp,
with
right?
with an emerald in it,
Okay.
and she's in the emerald.
Okay, I would gently try rubbing the emerald, like kind of like rubbing somebody's shoulder to try and wake them up.
Okay.
And if
Make
that didn't work, I would gently shake it, and then
That's what I was
tap.
curious if you were going to try to shake it. So, well, tell you what. So, just from the rubbing, let's make a maybe persuasion. Make a persuasion check on Arteme.
Persuasion is something I'm extremely horrible at. My modifier is 0.
Well, she doesn't seem to respond. She still feels like she's awake, or still feels like she's asleep. I mean, With the shake, go ahead and make... You said gently shake it, right? So make it as a sleight of hand check. Just a regular dex, unless you're proficient with sleight of hand. Okay, that's a little better. When you shake it as carefully as you can, and you realize, of course, that when you guys pulled it out of the box, that Norak grabbed it and threw it over his shoulder, like, it was moved pretty aggressively then, and she didn't really freak out about, you know, like, why are the walls shaking kind of thing. But when you shake it, you do hear kind of a stirring, some noise coming from inside of it. And it's hard to describe, but it's like you're hearing a person moving inside of, like, a metal room almost, like noise banging around inside there that is, like, echoed somehow. Basically, it seems like... It sounds basically like she's trapped inside of a small metal room is kind of what it sounds like. And you hear her kind of moving around in there. And she says, hello, are we outside? Why is it still dark?
Hi.
Hi.
It's still dark because it's currently night. You've been asleep for, what is it, almost 12?
But, I mean, at night I can usually still... You know, I can see something, the light from the stars and everything, and it's just pitch black. Make memory checks on Norak and Arteme, please. You can keep talking, I just want those memory checks.
Okay, first of all, I wanted to get a bit of information from you, like your name, where you live.
I'm Elwyn. She says, Elwyn. Alright, hang on 1 second for Norak. Oh shit, what was I gonna remind Norak of? Oh, hang on. I'll use that check in a bit, G, if something comes up for you. I wanted that just in case, but it hasn't come up yet. So, for Arteme, something you remember... you know what, I'm gonna hold off on both of those. I'm gonna use those checks, but in case something comes up here.
Okay.
Oh, actually there is one for Arteme. There you go. But she says though, but I mean, usually I can still see something, and it's just so pitch black.
Was it pitch black when we were in the ruin?
It's been pitch black every time I've woken up.
Okay, Would you mind putting that aside for a tiny bit?
Are you asking her that?
Yes.
She says, as long as you're going to try to get me out of here.
Okay. Alright, Ellen. Well, first of all, we're going to need a bit of information on your background, and then we're going to try and figure out how you got stuck in... Does that make sense?
She says, yeah, I mean, so Gudo, I mean, you know him, right? I mean, he... Look, it's a bit embarrassing, but I mean, he asked for my hand, and I said no. And then he kidnapped me, and he said that I'd be with him forever. And then he put me to sleep. I think it was magic, I don't know, but he put me to sleep, and then you woke me up. But I don't know why it's black. Yeah. She says, Gudo. Make both Sarah, because you guys can hear this, by the way. She's not. This isn't telepathy. She's speaking out loud. Anybody that was nearby would be able to hear her talking. Make perception checks, I think, on. That's not perception. You know what? Make it intelligence checks, all three of you. Just flat intelligence, because it's not really something any proficiency would help you with. Sarah, you can make it as an Arcana check if you want. We'll just add your proficiency to that, Becky. Your proficiency is 3 now, right?
Yeah.
Alright, so be 16 for you. Arteme, you're actually still talking to her back and forth, so this doesn't really cross your mind just yet, but both Norak and Sarah, in looking at this, it kind of crosses your mind about the same time that it might be black to her because she doesn't have eyes anymore. If she's trapped inside that gem and she's not a physical being in there, then she doesn't know what happened necessarily, is what it sounds like from what you're hearing from what she said to Arteme. But she's essentially blind, and therefore everything is black. She just doesn't know how it happened. She sounds very confused still.
I would ask her if she knows if Guido knew magic.
Yeah, he was he was our mage for the village. Yeah.
Do you know what kind of mage?
I wouldn't know those kinds of things.
What village?
Curtain. What do you mean, what village? Isn't that where we are? Did he take me somewhere? He said Curtain, by the way, which is where Arteme has. Arteme was in Curtain not too long ago.
This is a long way from Curtain.
Yeah, Curtain was where you were kidnapped outside of. You were
Okay,
were
but
outside of
maybe I
Curtain when
wouldn't
you were
tell her that at the moment.
kidnapped. That's up to you. She says, but I mean, can you get me out of here?
Without knowing what kind of magic was used, it's hard to say how to get you out, unfortunately.
Do you know somebody who might know that? I'm scared. Do you guys hear that breathing part, by the way? The bellows?
Yeah.
Okay.
When Sarah identified it, it was necromantic, right?
The magic that was used, the magic that enchants the gem is necromantic, yes.
We'll definitely look into it. Do you know if Guido is a necromancer or a healer?
I don't even know what that is. I don't know what you mean. I don't know that word. I mean, he's a healer, yeah. Anytime the folk in town are sick, they go to him. She says, I'm just so tired though. I think I'm gonna try to go back to sleep. Just please, just please get me out of here if you can.
Alright, we'll do what we can, but we'll have to do some research.
She just says thank you, and she's murmuring thank you over and over again as she seems to be falling back asleep. But she's in there. You guys are carrying this stone, so I mean, you guys can talk to her anytime you need to.
Okay.
Well, I guess when we get back to Mist, we could always head to Curtain and go beat somebody's ass.
That's true. Though I would prefer trying to get her out of there like before.
Yeah, but first we can always ask him what he did.
Yeah, but if he's a healer, healers don't normally use necromantic magic.
Well,
well, some would, but normally they're contradictory.
nuh-uh. No, healing magic is necromantic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So let's say that the balancing scale of life and death are kind of very closely connected anyways. So for example, if you're trying to resurrect somebody, that is necromancy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the only difference is whether you're trying to resurrect them with their mind or not. Meaning if you're trying to raise dead as a zombie, that's one thing. If you're trying to resurrect them and still have their mind there, that's a very thin, tenuous line of difference between those. Both of those are still necromancy.
Yeah, but when you're healing somebody, you're not normally... Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to explain this. I see healing magic and necromancy. They do have a bit of similarities, but necromancy, or most necromancers normally have ill intent, whereas healers, their intent is simply to heal, not to gain some kind of control out of the situation.
But magic is a tool. Magic doesn't care about intent.
That is true.
Now, technically, spells like Cure Wounds and things like that are actually evocation because you're forcing something, whether you're forcing a fireball or forcing wounds to knit together, it's still the same thing. But as far as the sphere of influence would still be, the specifically when it comes to dealing with the dead, let's say, whether you're choosing to help or to hurt, magic doesn't care. Magic is just the tool.
Which is why some people think magic comes from light, and some people think magic comes from darkness, because depending on your point of view and how you use it, magic is literally neutral. It's up to the caster and or user that makes it either light.
Sure. So she's gone back to sleep, and it is evening, certainly. Pretty late in the evening. It's probably 9:30-ish at this point. So what are you guys doing?
I should probably go find Pepperjack.
You do see the lamp is still on. In fact, you almost never see him leave the tent. He's pretty much just permanently in there. In fact, I would say that none of you saw him leave the tent. He may have at some point while you guys were sleeping, but because nobody was having watch, as far as you know, he's just been in there the whole time. Do you
Might
see
as well
Pepperjack?
go see what this new mission is. And ask if there's any mages that know a lot about necromancy or necromantic.
Sure.
Even a book would help.
This probably wouldn't even be a perception check. I gotta send Sarah a note here.
Shit. Alright.
There.
I'd probably just try to feel it. I wouldn't, openly look.
Just poke at it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you tell under the clothes?
Yeah, you can. You can. Nobody else would be able to, probably. It's okay. I'm just going to say it out loud because it'd be easier than typing it all. Norok and Arteme, you can't act on this knowledge because your characters don't know this thing. For Sarah, the fingertips, basically about halfway through the down to the palm, aren't there anymore, and there's nothing holding the glove's fingers up anymore. The gloves the fingers of the glove are just hanging limply now. But you still have physical sensation down to about a couple inches below the wrist. But if you were to pull it off, if you basically you can feel that it feels like semi-incorporeal, I guess, between the halfway through the wrist, or halfway through the palm rather, down to a couple inches below the wrist. So basically it's getting worse, but the extents of it are completely gone, and there's nothing but shadow there. And then you have this kind of half-phased part between the halfway through your hand down to a couple inches below the wrist that is still partially there, but looks like shadow.
Okay. Did it seem to just get worse overnight?
You for sure can tell that it's pretty rapidly accelerating now.
Okay.
And you did notice, of course, that it gets worse when you specifically use Sorcanal Rill spells, which you know what those are, of course, now, or at least you've noticed it more when you've casted certain spells, like your Chaos Bolt, for example, and your Shadow Knife and so on. But it's accelerating, it seems, regardless. It's just a matter of how, whether you try to mitigate that acceleration or not.
Okay.
18 hours earlier, it was just at the wrist, and now it's a couple inches below the wrist.
Okay.
That was the last time you checked when you were sitting at Parthiosa Sky Burial up in the Drain Peaks, remember?
Yeah.
So it's gone a couple inches in 18 hours.
Shit, that's a lot in 18 hours. Okay. I'm just going to keep that to myself then.
Okay.
Use my-
It does cross your mind too, by the way, as you guys are heading towards Pepperjack's tent, the command tent. You're passing the Warforge, and Arteme, you do have those the weapons that you guys took off of that rack that attacked you. you're passing and you see swords laying out and things like that, like they're preparing weapons for war.
Alright, and we had checked them and they weren't magical or anything?
Correct.
Okay, I could drop them off there, because we already took the ones we wanted, right?
It's up to you. Yeah, it's up to you guys if you are or not. You had a well-crafted glaive, 5 short swords, a broadsword, and 12 daggers.
I think I took 2 daggers.
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
have taken a couple for spares, and then...
Okay. Then go ahead and add 2 for yourself, and it'll be 10 that you give them then. And Sarah already took the ones that she wanted. Okay, you guys head into the tent then?
Yeah.
Okay. You guys step inside. Samson is back in there with Pepperjack again. It's just the 2 of them. They're talking, and as soon as you open it, like as soon as the tent flap opens, you heard voices that was kind of muffled and murmured, but as soon as you open the tent flap, they immediately stop. And you can see Pepperjack through the tent, but you guys step inside. And he looks happy to see you, but he looks like he probably has not slept this entire time, which would be 36 hours or so at this point, let's say, at least. Obviously, he was traveling with the chain of dogs as well, so he may not have had much sleep for quite a while. He says, "Oh, well, you guys look a little better. It looks like you got some rest, so I'm glad to see it. I do have another assignment I can send you guys on if you're willing."
What kind of assignment?
Can I take an insight check or whatever and take a look at his leg that was injured?
Yep.
Pepperjack?
This would be investigation or possibly medicine. Yeah. Well, investigation would just be staring at it, but if you're trying to look at it from like a, let's say a medical point of view, go ahead and make it a
Did it
medicine
get
check.
worse?
Yeah. Okay. Either
Okay.
one would be fine, so you can roll whichever one you prefer. It's hard to tell if it's gotten worse or not. The bandage has been changed again since you saw him earlier. You saw him basically at 6:30 a.m. or so, like 6:15, 6:30 a.m. And now it's been 15, 16 hours actually since then. So it's hard to say whether it's really gotten worse, but the bandage was definitely changed again since then and is bleeding through again.
Okay, well, I just come out and say, "How's your leg?"
There you go.
All right. He kind of he was already mid-sentence to answer about the assignment. I think Sarah asked that, right?
Yeah, I asked what kind.
Okay. He was he had opened his mouth to try to respond to that, and then looks over at Arteme and kind of looks down at his leg, and then his jaw kind of turns aside a little bit. He says, "Well, to be honest, it hurts like a motherfucker, but the soldiers need he says dental rill. You guys don't necessarily know that word. Here. That is where most healing magic comes from. I would say that probably Artemis probably heard the word and Sarah's probably heard the word. You just didn't necessarily know that. But anyways, in the context, you gather that that's what he's saying. That he doesn't want his mages using that when he's got soldiers that are potentially dying, and he's just got what he sees as a flesh wound. But
if it's still bleeding after 18 hours, that's not good either.
I'm gonna
Potentially.
go use the ring of healing surges on him.
He sees you kind of approaching. He says, "No, don't even bother. I mean, if you don't mind stepping through the infirmary, I mean, we've got people that need it. I'm going to be fine. I've had far worse than this." He actually holds his arm out, and you see a nasty slash, like a really bad scar that goes from his wrist all the way up to almost to his elbow. And he says, "This one really should have taken my arm off, and I still survived that. I'm going to be just fine."
Alright.
He says, "I'm barely look. I mean, I'm not even moving. I'm just standing here at this table and barking out orders. I'm okay." But I do
Fine.
appreciate it, though.
If it's still bad when we get back from whatever you have us do, I'm using it anyways.
He kind of grins. He says, "Deal."
I'll accept that. People are pretty stubborn.
I mean, he's a a military commander. Of course, he's going to be stubborn. But he says, "I appreciate your concern, but like I said, the soldiers needed a lot worse than I do. Even Samson here," and he looks over. Samson has been trying to get me to accept his dental rill for the past 8 hours, and if I'm not gonna let him do it, I'm not gonna certainly take it from civilians when you guys could probably have better use of it, especially for what I'm sending you to do, if you don't mind.
All right, what's the mission?
So, obviously, you guys were at the Battle of Sodden Field. We lost a lot of very important personnel there. Um, one of our medics, Hairshirt, he fell at the battle, and he held a rucksack full of potions and salves and poultices and healing herbs, things like that, that we could very much use right now. If you guys were able to find him or any of the other medics and bring back their supplies, that would be a huge help. But most importantly, if you're willing to go out there and kind of dig through these corpses, it'll be dangerous certainly, because there will be necrophages out there, and not just the vultures and crows and that kind of stuff, but probably some ghouls and other necrophages that are a little more dangerous. So it won't be necessarily an easy task. But most importantly, Scatter, our high mage, he fell there as well. And he held a scroll case that has a very important teleportation sigil that we need. If we're going to really fortify this place up, we'll need to be able to summon the Crow Fort to get reinforcements here. He says I'm going to type that for you. He says that. He says specifically to... Here. Whoops. There you go. He says if you guys are willing to go, I'll send Samson here with you. Samson is pretty tough as knights go. He's gotten a certain affinity for the dental rill as well, so he can certainly help you guys along your way if there are wounded to take care of.
I would ask if are there any mages that
You cut out right at the end there, Fox. Any mages that what?
that survived the attack or are in okay condition?
A couple of our healers. What is it? What do you need? What is it you're looking for?
Do any of them know a lot about necromantic gem, or do you guys have a book or anything about it? Necromantic gem.
He looks at Samson. Samson kind of shakes his head, and he looks back over. He says, "I don't know that we have the kind of mage that you're looking for. I mean, the high mage would be the right answer. A scatter would probably be the one to ask that question. But with the forces we have remaining, I don't think so. Really, to be honest, I mean, our best bet is once if we get those sigils here, then we can open the teleportation channels that would get us back to Mist. It won't be enough to get all of our people out, but we can bring some support in along with some proper mages, and they might have the answers you're looking for.
Okay.
I mean, if you're willing to take this on, I can certainly instruct them to do so once we get some support here.
Sounds good.
He says, so if you guys don't mind, I mean, you'll still have some Crowblinder support with Samson with you. Is this something you guys feel like you can take on? It won't be that dangerous. You don't need to worry about enemy forces. We've got scouts all along covering the battlefield, so we know... He says the battlefield, and he's talking about the sodden field, where it's covered in mud and everything, certainly, but nobody's going to march an army through that, basically. So you don't need to worry about military forces attacking you, just necrophages. Do you guys know what necrophages are?
Aren't those maggot things?
No.
Stuff that dead stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Necrophages are just corpse eaters, just things that eat dead stuff. Like maggots in real life are necrophages, and crows and vultures and things like that.
Meaning they'd be
Okay.
eating the dead, but we'd just be scavenging, and most necrophages end up running off
Well-
when some do.
That's 100% correct when we're talking natural world, but the warning that he gave you about the necrophages is not about the vultures and the crows. It's about ghouls. It's about undead things that are trying. Well, they're not actually undead, but things that it eat. Some aren't. Let's say things that eat corpses. That could be a threat. Like, for example, a carrion crawler. That's a necrophage. That giant maggot. That's a necrophage, and that thing would kill you to eat you. To eat the dead and so on. That kind of thing.
Okay, so we'll just have to be careful and search in a grid. Okay, yeah, that shouldn't be.
Samson says, "I'll protect you, though, Miss. Don't worry."
Can I do an insight on that and see if I believe him?
Samson, absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Roll it in the tower, and then I'll
This
give you
is
your
the
answer
same
here.
as Smarty Pants.
Yep. That was the Chappelle show. I want to talk
Yeah.
to Samson. No, that was a Chappelle show. That was half
No,
baked,
that was
wasn't it?
half baked. Yeah,
Yeah.
half baked with Chappelle. Yeah, this is the same as Smarty Pants.
Okay. Oh, this is here. Just to remind you who Samson was. That's it. That's what he looks like.
Okay.
So, just out of curiosity, while we've been here, has he been eyeing me like before?
No.
Can I? Okay. All right.
Alright, well, I'm good with this if you guys are.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. We can
Um,
handle this, no problem.
Pepperjack says, "Look, I know it's already getting late, but we need this back as soon as possible. If you guys are willing, Samson will be there with you. He's got means of bringing up lights, so you guys won't be too much in the dark. But do you think you can? I know this is an awful thing to request, but do you think you can kind of dig through some corpses in the dark?"
We can.
All right, then please, by all means, set out and good luck. Bring those sigils back as fast as you can, and any healing supplies you can find.
Okay, I'll use my light spell, I guess.
Well, as soon as you step out of the... Are you guys leaving then, or do you have anything else you need to ask him?
I don't think I have anything else to do.
Oh, I was gonna go check with Rook.
About the tent supplies?
Yes.
Okay. You drop into the tavern, which is very raucous and almost loud at this point, which is, like, surprising. Like, you can hear it from the outside, of course, but they're... Oops, sorry, puppy. I just kicked Esther's head. She was, like, right at my foot. Poor girl. She just looked at me like, what did I do? But anyways, it's almost like it's not quite the kind of loud fanfare that you might hear, at a town, in a tavern inside of a city or something. But it's almost that, which is almost surprising because of how dour and not necessarily scared, but let's say, shell-shocked and unhappy war generally is. So it's almost like they're just, able to kind of forget their woes for a little bit while they're all drunk. But it's basically very loud inside, and everybody seems to be enjoying themselves. There are actual tables and chairs set up now. They look like they've been hastily built, like basically just chunks of wood that they've kind of thrown together. There's an actual kind of chunk of wood that a bar has been made out of with some stone. Like it's actually surprisingly come together very rapidly in the 16 hours since you were here, or 12 hours, whatever it's been. But Rook is behind the counter. She looks up and says, "Arteme, right? You were here for the leathers, I assume, the skins."
Yeah.
Okay, give me just a second. And she goes back behind that flap that you saw the boy go through earlier.
Okay.
And she comes out and she's holding like a big, like a leather sack basically, but with like it's basically just all this stuff is just stuffed into it, and it's huge. It's about Sarah size. So, like, basically a giant sack stuffed full of skins and some leathers for tarps and things like that. She says, I think this will be enough. Build what you can out of it, and if you still need more, just come back and let me know.
Okay. Thank you.
And she just nods and turns back to the next person that, has come up to the bar for a drink. It's going to be way too big. Like, it's going to be too heavy for you to just carry. You're going to throw it in the bag, or what are you going to do? In the bag
Yeah,
of
I'm gonna
holding
throw
it
it
in?
in the bag holding for now.
Okay. Go ahead and add it for me if you would. Just add in there a bag of skins. I did empty out the party inventory. There's still some coins there, but so everything's been added to people's sheets now and stuff. So, but there's lights all around camp already. There is continual flame spells basically that are up at various points throughout the camp, so everybody can see pretty clearly, as well as just mundane traditional fires around. So, you guys just heading straight out?
Well, I'd put the light spell up just because it would help us as we're getting out of it.
Sure.
To the range.
Okay. Then you have yours up. You see Samson cast something. He just murmurs. There's no material component, and little orbs appear above his head, and he kind of he sends them over, and he motions one over Sarah and one over Norok. And you already have your own, but he puts one over your head as well. He says, "I'm not trying to be rude. I just want to make sure that I can see everybody in case we get separated."
No problem. I just like the coloring of my light because it's like a nice light blue.
He says, I agree. It's a very nice light blue. Make an insight check on Arteme.
Oh, and I'm going to be using Mage Hand because I definitely don't want him to notice my hand.
Okay, so you're just filling out your glove?
Yeah.
All right. There you go. All right, so he kind of leads the the group, just standing in front basically, and heading out to the south, basically towards that giant battlefield. It is quite a walk. You guys thankfully had some good rests and everything in, but you did see that, right, Fox?
Yep.
Okay. But hour and a half or so in, you guys make it to the edges of the battlefield out there. And the stench is awful, even at night, even when the fog is beginning to settle in again. There's just an unbearable smell. Bodies that have been out in the sun all day that are kind of bloated and basically have had 24 hours to kind of fill out. So it's pretty gross. But you guys make your way all the way out to this towards the edges of the battlefield here, and he says, "Okay, well, I mean, now that we're here, I guess, I assume you guys never met High Mage Scatter. Did you ever meet Hairshirt? Do you know who we're looking for?"
Nope.
We
We met Hairshirt, didn't we?
We've heard Hairshirt before.
Yeah, you guys. Well, I don't remember if you spoke to him or not, but you did meet Hairshirt, and Scatter was nearby, but you didn't talk to him or anything, so you probably wouldn't know what he looked like. But Samson gives you a description of both. He says Hairshirt. Really, he was a weird one. I mean, he wore a shirt covered in just literally made out of hair, and nothing else on his torso. So I mean, if you're looking for a guy basically that looks like he's wearing a vest made out of animal hair that looks very uncomfortable, and that's him. He'll probably have a really big bag, with supplies in it. High Mage Scatter is a really short guy, completely bald, no eyebrows, no nothing. Also pretty distinct. When he passed his high mage, his testify sorcery, he that was his price, I guess, is that he was pretty hairless afterwards. It's funny. I just realized we're looking for two people that have opposite ends of the hair sphere, the hair balance. But yeah, Hairshirt and then High Mage Scatter if possible.
All right, I know there's necrophages out there, but have there been any words of any necromancers out there? Because if High Mage Scatter comes back under somebody else's control, he's going to be pretty mean. So
we have scouts all around, in fact, and he kind of looks up and he points out in the distance, and you see him point at a copse of trees. He says, "If I had to guess, there's probably at least two right there." And then he points at another copse that's much further away, many hundreds of yards away, but you can still see it, just from the moonlight. It's about half moon. Chorus is about a half moon, by the way, so you've got kind of a good blue kind of tinge over the whole atmosphere around. But basically, he says, if you see trees around here, we probably have scouts in them. So, the area is pretty well covered at the moment. We shouldn't be at much risk beyond, any potential necrophages themselves. But nobody should be out here tinkering with the dead except for us.
all right, and is anybody looking for any personal items or just the scrolls and things, medic supplies, things like that?
Hairshirt, I don't think had any family. For Scatter, to be honest, he was always kind of a jerk to me, so I don't really know. But Pepperjack didn't ask for us, to bring anything back in particular except for the things we really need. So, if we find those, we've got to, hurry find them and then hurry and get back if we can.
Cool, business as usual.
He kind of nods. He says, "All right, well, let's try to avoid getting too far apart from each other in case we do get attacked. But otherwise, that's what these spheres over our heads are for, so that we can still see each other at a distance."
On the walk there, I would have been keeping an eye out because you said it was dark, right?
Yeah.
I would have been keeping an eye out for gigantic dogs.
Well, funny that you say such a thing.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I was just kidding. But you guys kind of begin looking through the corpses to see what you can find.
Yeah, I want to see if I can make
Yeah.
my way over to the mage that we fought and go through his corpse.
Okay. That was in the basic. That's a ways away. That's kind of basically you guys are at the north end of a pretty large battlefield, and that's way to the southeast. So you'd probably have to be pretty far separated from the group to get over there. You're talking about the one that Norok beheaded, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You'd have to separate from the group quite a bit to get over there. Are you going to do that?
I want to, but no.
You totally can. Like, Samson isn't your boss. He can't tell you what to do, especially not for Sarah, who is of noble blood, despite nobody else respecting it.
I will go as far as I'm comfortable with. Like, I still want to be able to see them, but I'm gonna slowly start making my way that way.
Okay.
Wait, did you say out loud that you want to go check that out, or did you just?
I probably would have said it out loud.
Loud
I'd go
enough
with you.
for who to hear, for Samson
For
to
it-
try to. He's far enough away from you that you could potentially whisper it to Artemis without him hearing, if that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have told him.
Okay.
Okay, oh, I'd go with you because I'm curious and I always like finding new, interesting things off.
Sounds good. Let's go.
Okay. All right, then you guys kind of are you checking corpses along your way?
Yeah,
Looking
I
for 'em?
would.
Okay.
There's no point in your way there to backtrack, but I'd also try and make a bit of a map grid to see where we already searched in case we have to.
Okay. For that, give me a flat intelligence check on Artemis. Just to see how kind of efficient your gridding this out is.
Oh, and if Artemis is alright with it, I'm
Ooh.
gonna borrow the broom and
Ouch.
just hover above so I don't have to step on corpses.
Sure.
So the first use of your guys' flying broom is to not get your feet dirty.
Yeah, they're
That's
gross
good.
and bloated.
There's more than a few that have already popped. So
Ugh.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely using the broom.
All right. Go ahead and all three of you make investigation checks. We're going to see how much time passes before you guys potentially find what you're looking for. 'Cause there's a lot of bodies to sift through. Hey, natural 20.
Yeah,
All right.
I find
Well,
everything.
so Artemis, from your kind of ground level view of this, you find body after body. They're a lot of them are kind of spread out more than you would expect because you guys are still kind of near the edge of the battlefield, rather than where there's like a dense almost pile of them more towards the center, where the when the Backlights and the Mortrilus were kind of surrounding the Crowblinders and just cutting them down in chunks. But there's just pieces everywhere, and it's quite disgusting. But you don't see anything so far that kind of catches your attention that could potentially fit this. You see surprisingly more orcs than you would expect, because you thought this was pretty much all, most of the refugees. There's no orcs amongst the refugees, but you see a couple of orcs in there, which is a little odd, or seems odd to you at least at first. But so far you haven't found any of the bodies. Norok, where you're kind of a little closer to Samson, and looking around, and similarly, you find there's multiple. You see these are certainly Crowblinders. There's a pile of 3 of them that are almost stacked on top of each other, and you can't tell which arm this one belongs to, and that kind of thing. It's quite a mess, and it's a little bit sad because you're kind of encamped with these people now. So these are the friends of the people that you're, kind of depending on, basically. And obviously this is going to be a heavy, more emotional blow to them, that these people are pretty. Messed up already. But anyway, you kind of keep looking. Samson, you see him kneel down constantly, and he, kicks a body over, rolls it, not kicks in a disrespectful way, but kind of rolling bodies over and things like that to see, where, these ones that he's specifically looking for might be, and with no real luck, it seems. Oops, I have this one here.
Do we see anything interesting on the ones we passed by? So
Define interesting. I guess, are you looking for anything specific?
Not really. Maybe magical items, anything useful, residual potions, ingredients, stuff people carry that could be
Are you
useful.
rifling? Are you rifling pockets? Because you like if you are this are you looking? Are you just walking over these and then if anything is stands out that you would kind of look at it? Or are you checking pockets and stuff?
I'd probably check pockets a bit on the way.
Okay, make another investigation check on Arteme. As you kind of kneel down to start checking pockets, though, let's go to roll. Sarah, you as you're kind of floating just above, not super high, but maybe eye level with Arteme, so up a couple of feet off the ground. About 20 feet away from you, you see a bald human. It appears to be human. The ears look a little bit pointy. Maybe there's some half elf ancestry a while back in his bloodline. But you do see a bald human-looking man that you don't think you see eyebrows on. About 20 feet away. He's face down in the mud. Very much dead.
Tell Arteme that I think I found him and start headed over that way.
Before anybody goes over that way, can I? Well, I'm going to start to look around because she already moved, I think. But is anything moving in the direction that that I'm looking? I'm going to keep. We're moving forward, so in my forward moving direction with everybody else, is anything?
Make a perception check on Norok. Arteme, as Sarah tells you this, you've got your hand in a very wet pocket, very disgustingly wet pocket, because you're not sure if that's, if it's just blood, if it's mud. This body could have, let's say, evacuated his bowels when he died. So it's, the wet of this pocket is disgusting. But you reach in there, and there's coins in there for sure. You can't tell what color they are, and the shades of the light basically aren't natural enough to be able to tell what color the coins are. But you pull them out and kind of, rubbing your thumb over it to look at it, it looks like they're gold. So you've got a handful of gold coins out of this pocket. That's it for that pocket. Norok, for sure, there is movement that's a few hundred yards away, probably 100 yards away. You see at least two things that are bent over and quadrupedal, but they look too, what's the word I'm looking for? They don't look like animals. They're bent over and on arms and legs, but it looks like people bent over on arms and legs, and they're moving around, and it seems like they're just trying to keep outside of the range of the radius of the light. And you see at least two of them, but there's probably more.
Alright, I'm going to quietly, if I can touch anybody close to me, I'm going to quietly touch them and point to the direction of where I saw the movement at, and make like my fingers walking like to the yellow book motion. So.
Okay. Samson is the only one that's nearby you, and you kind of get his attention, and he looks over in the direction that you're referring to. You see him kind of set his jaw, and he kind of reaches over his shoulder and begins to quietly but slowly unsheath his greatsword off of his back. Sarah, did you called out to Arteme specifically that you think you may have found? Like, did you say it loud? What did you do?
Well, I'm assuming I wasn't too far from her, so just like normal speech. Hey, I think I found him.
Okay, just to Arteme though, not loud enough for Norok and Samson to hear.
No, because I don't want to alert anything that might be around. But to get a better look, because I'm assuming I only have the one orb above me, right?
Correct, unless you've used your own of some sort or a torch.
Honestly, I would toss up my own dancing lights to search the man that I found.
Are you moving the orbs over him?
Moving them with me as I'm going over towards him.
All right. So as you start to approach, then Samson and Norok are further behind you guys. They hadn't moved as far into the battlefield as you guys had, trying to head towards where the dead mage was. But Samson is kind of unsheathing his greatsword as you see it, kind of looking over your shoulder towards him, and he starts marching to the south. Norok, what are you doing?
I'm going to draw my axe as well too, and are the ladies? They're ahead of us, right?
They're probably 60 feet ahead of you on the left.
Okay.
Like southwest of you, or southeast of you rather.
Is that the direction that the movement was coming from?
Direction that the movement is directly south. You'll have to pass. Basically, they're off to your left, and you'll have to walk past them to go towards the movement that you saw.
All right. Then I'm going to move in that direction to essentially flank them in case they do attack, and then continue to move forward. Not all the way in that direction, but again, is that the so that
flanking Sarah and Arteme, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah, because that's
Okay.
where they're at too, right? Yeah, so I'm gonna move towards them, and then if I get close enough, I'm gonna gesture to them too that I saw something right there. So,
Okay. That was one of your guys' dogs, right?
no,
That was my
Becky sneezing.
sneeze.
Oh, that was a sneeze? I thought it was a bark.
I was trying to hold it in.
All right. Well, Norok, then, as you're kind of not running, of course, because you can't run in this mud, especially not with these bodies. You're going to end up stepping on something, something you don't want to step into. But you're kind of carefully plodding through this battlefield. Sarah, you arrive with at the body with the dancing lights over it. So you basically have 5 orbs floating around you, basically, and around this corpse while you're floating on the broom.
I would have headed to her and started searching the corpse because I'm pretty sure she's not getting off that broom to search.
Okay.
No, I'm gonna keep a lookout while she's searching.
Okay. Make. The thing is, you're drawing attention to the body by putting up these orbs and going to it. Samson kind of stops, and because it's a pretty bright light source, of course, on an otherwise dark night. Basically, that it's not just the orb you already had, but the extras that you made. He looks over there and sees that, he kind of stops for a second. Now, the movement, by the way, G, is still a long ways away. It's it's in the middle of the battlefield, basically, is where the movement that you saw was. So he kind of stops for a second and looks over at Sarah and Arteme, and he says, "Let's check with them first, see if they found anything."
okay.
And he kind of heads your direction. Sarah, Arteme, what are you guys doing?
I'd be searching for the pack.
He's about 60 feet away. So okay.
And, like,
Make an
I'd be-
investigation check. Sorry, Fox. Go ahead.
Be searching through pockets, trying his pack, and anything else that would be around him.
Okay. His pack. He has a very large tome that is wrapped in something. You can tell it's a book inside of it, but it's basically wrapped in like a waterproof leather, almost is what it feels like. You find that that's kind of the biggest thing, and it's kind of taking up this whole pack basically. It seems like it's for this book pretty much. There's a scroll case, and the scroll case does stand out because Pepperjack told you that usually the sigil that he's looking for would probably be in there. But there's a scroll case. There's a gold watch. He's got a gold watch that looks pretty expensive in a pocket. Basically, like you're able to kind of quickly see these things. Are you trying to further investigate anything? Samson is about 30 feet away now.
Not really, just looking for anything interesting or...
Can I see how he died?
There is a very large hole from basically like his sternum down to his waist.
Would I have any idea what would have made that?
Make a,
Medicine?
maybe medicine check.
Which means there'd be a lot of
No.
gore around him.
He's in a pile of gore. Yeah. Basically, like you're to even get through these pockets, you're having to step through a very widely scattered pile of intestines and other viscera. But with that medicine check, no. Basically there's a hole, and he's still got his sides. Like basically, it's as if you just like a cannonball hole is kind of what it looks like.
Okay.
But there were no cannons that you saw out here at the battle. So not that there couldn't have been one, but you didn't see it, unless the Vabians brought it with them. But by now, Samson has arrived. Norok, you were going straight with him, right?
Yeah.
You see Norok, you're behind him, but Sarah and Arteme, you see his eyes go wide, and he says, "That's it. That's Scatter." I mean, he was never nice to me, but it's still sad to see him like this. Look, this is going to sound a little bit rude, but I need all of you to get away from the corpse right now. Quickly, we need to move quickly.
Well, I
Why?
would have picked up the pack and the other...
Specifically, what are you trying to pick up?
I would have already picked up the pack and searched to see if he had any potions or anything else in his pocket.
Okay.
What's left of them anyway.
I'll say that because you were rifling through his things. The pack is the largest thing. The scroll case is kind of still over his shoulder, meaning you're gonna have to move the body basically to get the scroll case off of his shoulder. The pack though, with the book in it, we'll say that you're kind of standing and holding that then, and kind of rifling through that, and that's fine. He says that's fine. You can take that with you, but I need you to give me some space here.
I'll move away, but I'm not turning away. I'm watching what he's doing.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Start some kind of necromancy and whooping ass. So, well, not that I know what that was, but if he starts casting or saying weird words and stuff, then I'm gonna fucking kick ass. So.
All right. So, how far back are you stepping? I guess the three of you, because Norok, you were still probably 15 feet, 20 feet maybe back anyway. I guess Sarah and Artemy, how far are you going?
5 feet, 10 at the absolute most.
He says, no, I need you to go back. I need you to go back with your friend over there, please. You can watch. I don't care. You just need to be over there if you don't mind. This is really. I'm trying to be as polite as I can about this, but this is really an order from the Crowblinders. I need you guys back quickly.
Fine, 20 feet. Watching.
You were already at 20 feet anyways, G. So.
Okay, then I'll stay at 20.
Okay.
All right, but I'm keeping some of my lights over him so I can see what he's doing.
Okay.
Pen such to see what he's doing because I have no idea what he's up to.
You guys go over and join Norok then.
Yeah.
Okay. You see him as soon as you guys have started to walk away. He kind of waits till you're probably 10, 15 feet basically, But you see him he holds a hand up over his. He holds a finger up to his hand up to his ear and is pressing two fingers against his ear, the way that a person that is talking into a Bluetooth headset might. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everybody get that motion? He's kind of tilting his.
Kind of telepathic communication or communication.
Well, you guys have used the sending stone. Yeah, they're walkie-talkie. Specifically, you guys used the sending stone that Pepperjack gave you, but this is kind of a better version of that, where it will allow two-way communication, and they're called stones of far speech. I would say that Artemis probably seen these before, so it wouldn't be too surprising for her. Whoops. There you go. That's what they're called.
Okay, I would listen
terms,
intently, and maybe if I can't directly hear him, I would use size.
Okay. You know what? I should have been keeping track of what Sai's doing, because she is probably just a brown fox at this point, covered in mud.
Oh no, she would stay on my shoulder just so she doesn't get too dirty.
Okay.
She's not gonna run around and viscera. It would be a bit too much for her sensitive nose.
That's true. Yeah, she probably would be passing out or asking to be sent back to the pocket dimension. Then it's going to be at disadvantage, but I will let you make a check to see if you can get. He's covering his mouth, so the reason the hand is up by his ear, by the way, is that he's holding the walkie-talkie in his ear, sure, but he's also kind of covering his mouth indirectly on purpose. He's doing it. You guys don't necessarily know that he's doing it on purpose, but it's pretty clear that that's what he's doing to keep you from being able to read lips. But go ahead and she can't tell you what she hears. I guess I would let you pick then for Fox Arteme. Are you going to listen through Sai? In which case, your own senses are you won't be able to see and hear, and just listen through her. Is that what you're going to try to do?
Yeah, that's what I was going to do.
All right. Then you kind of need to lean on Norok probably to keep from, because you basically don't have any senses, so it's easy for you to fall over if you do that.
Yeah.
Especially with wind and everything. All right, go ahead and make. It would be at disadvantage, but because Sai gets advantage, it'll make it a flat roll. So go ahead and make a perception check with Sai. Well, what are her stats? Yeah, use her stats.
I don't have a sheet for her, so you'll
okay.
have to do it.
Her wisdom is a +1, so go ahead and just roll a flat d20.
Alright, while she's doing that, can I, still holding Arteme up, of course, turn around and just do, from what I can see, scan around, and things coming after us, moving, anything? Since it seems like Sarah and, Sai have eyes on our friend over there.
Okay.
So.
Make another perception check on Norok.
Okay.
You're not able to pick out very much, but through Sai's ears, and you can feel her flittering her ears back and forth, trying to get the best possible angle. She's almost echolocating like a bat. She kind of ends up turning her ears towards a nearby copse of trees, because you guys are near the edge of the field at this point. She kind of turns her ears towards the trees because the sound is bouncing back off the trees, and that sounds louder than just trying to listen directly. So she kind of turns her ears that direction to listen back from the trees. And he says something about here and found and I think so. He says and I think so. But as soon as he finishes that, he pulls his hand. He doesn't. He's not talking for long. It's basically. It seems like he's reported something back to someone. You don't necessarily know who. All three of you guys can make.
You cut out there, so I didn't get all that.
You hear the words. Whoops, that should have been capital with a second H, but God, fucking shift button being held down or something like that. There we go. All right. Yeah, I think I'm going red. It went red for a second. All right. Anyway, so that's basically the stuff that you don't pick out much because he stops talking. It sounds like it was. He didn't seem like it was a conversation as much as he was reporting something back. But then he pulls his hand away. All three of you can make insight checks if you want, but he definitely seems like he's acting pretty suspicious. I'm only having you guys roll this because it's below the passive that he's acting suspicious, but on how well you roll of what you might think of that. It doesn't seem, for any of the three of you, it doesn't seem too abnormal just yet. Like, you don't necessarily know what they needed from Scatter, but as you're trying to kind of analyze that information of what just happened here, you see him. He's kind of kneeled down over the body now, and he's kind of grabbed the shoulder, Scatter's shoulder, and he's kind of lifted him over so that he can take the scroll case off of his arm, and he's kind of covering his nose and his mouth with one hand because of how bad the smell is, of course. But as soon as he sets the body back down, he's taken the scroll case and it's kind of sitting across his lap because he's kneeled down. You see him reach into a side pouch, and he pulls out something. You can't tell what it is, and he snaps his fingers, and the thing in his hand catches light. Like, it's not a bright fire; it's just a small flame, and it begins to smoke slightly. You can't tell quite what it is. Go ahead and make perception check. Probably Arteme, because of Psi, would be able to have advantage on this. A perception check on Psi with advantage. Just roll a flat d20 and we'll add the 1 to it with your proficiency modifier, so a total of 4 to whatever your flat d20 roll is.
Okay. Hang on.
But he begins murmuring
My
something.
perception is +6.
I guess you're using her stats anyways. Yeah, so it'd be 6. Okay, so it would be 18. Yeah. So for a total of 18, which is good because with the advantage it was a 2 that you dropped. It's incense. It smells like it's actually like a size kind of wrinkles her nose up because of how strong it smells. But he's burning incense over this body as he's murmuring some kind of a divine incantation. And you see him kind of pass. Huh?
Can I do an Arcana check to see what he's doing?
Yeah, go ahead. You probably aren't familiar with this particular spell. One, because it's not arcane; it's not really in your field. But it's not something you would have probably run across. Maybe Arteme, but probably not even that.
Is it some kind of funerary rite or something?
That's kind of what it seems like at first, until he gets a little bit further into this little arcane or divine ritual that he's performing here. Specifically because you see him pass his palm over the face, like as he set Scatter back down on his back, basically, like he rolled him over basically towards that he's kind of on his back, face up, and he passes his hand where a funerary rite, especially when you're kind of sending somebody off, you might close the eyelids. He kind of passes his hand the other way, like upwards over the face, and you see the eyelids, although very empty and very dead, you see the eyelids kind of flitter open. They don't blink, but they kind of open when he passes his hand. Still dead, not moving, nothing else, just the eyelids that seem to have opened. And he's still murmuring this incantation over this. All three of you make perception checks. Fox, you can make yours again it's going to be a really high DC for everybody other than Psy. So go ahead and just roll a flat D20 again, Fox, and we'll add the 6 for the perception. With advantage again on Artemis. Yeah, Sarah and Norok don't pick anything up. Nah, you're probably not going to get much. Samson starts murmuring something to the body, it seems like, and you're not able to hear much from it, but you hear him ask, "Where is the box?" You hear him ask that. That's probably the only one that you get clearly.
Okay, so basically it's kind of like when I was trying to talk to the cat, the ghost cat, so he's trying to talk to...
What he casted, so for the three of you, not your characters, he cast Speak with Dead, is what he casted. You're just not familiar with it. But he's asking the body questions. He's asking Scatter questions, which Scatter is under no obligation to answer or be truthful. But he's asking it, and you're hearing a very ethereal and wispy-sounding voice reply back, but it's too distant and too quiet to hear the answers. But you can hear a little bit, just barely. You can hear Samson asking, like responding to him. You just can't hear exactly what Scatter's saying back because you didn't roll high enough. But you hear him ask, "Where's the box?" And then he says, "Then where is the ship?" And then there's that kind of ethereal worded response that you can't quite make out. Then Samson, seeming angry, says, "Where is it?" A little louder, a little more aggressive. And then, what is the pass? And then the last one, this one most certainly seems very aggressive and angry because he says that. And that one, he's not even, there's no response afterwards. It seems like maybe the temporary animation that was given to the body is already gone at this point. And once that finishes, you can tell that the kind of electricity in the air is kind of settled, and he stands back up and looks over you at you guys, and he says, "Well, with that unpleasantness over, I think we probably have what we came for. I mean, we could certainly, spend a few more minutes, see if we can find Hair Shirt and get some supplies for them, but we should probably head back as soon as possible. Maybe spend 10 more minutes looking. What do you guys say?"
Sure.
I'd want to get as many supplies or medical stuff that we can.
He just nods at you and starts kind of walking. He walks towards you guys, but like to the northeast a little bit. Basically like to your guys' right, towards kind of back the way you came, almost. The way that you guys came. He's not stopping to look at bodies. He's walking that direction. You guys gonna keep looking at bodies?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I'm still gonna slowly head towards that sorcerer.
Okay. Make a perception check on Sarah. Artemis, you know that it's almost exactly midnight at this point. And Sarah, there is most certainly something moving in the shadows between the trees of that copse that's nearby. You guys know what a copse is, right? I keep saying that word.
Yeah.
C-O-P-S-E. There's something moving in that copse, and you know what it is, and you know that it's here for you. It's not a necrophage. It's not like you know that this is the first time that you've ever, I guess, been standing, been awake, and had it like 50 feet away from you, and felt that kind of anger and aggression, and know that you're seconds away from being attacked. What are you gonna do?
Throwing my my mage armor up first, and then I'm gonna send my lights over at the same time
Okay.
towards the trees so I can get a better look.
I wasn't quite expecting it to take quite so long to get to this point. It is 9:01. Fox, this might take a little bit. Up to you. Do you guys want to call it here and we'll resume here next week, or do you want to? Do you have it might take maybe half an hour, Fox.
I'd rather call it for now. I'm
Okay.
kind of burnt out.
No, we're already at time. That's totally fine. So next week we will pick up here with the thing in the trees that is about to knock over Sarah and probably bite her face off. And we'll go
Yep.
from there. You said you were putting up mage armor, right?